My entitled, idiotic friend brings her nasty, bratty child on our vacation. But instead of accommodating this demon spawn that we didn't plan on, we as a group decided to continue doing all the things that we wanted to do as adults, effectively no longer allowing our friend to participate as they were constantly watching after their stupid kid. But now that it's all said and done, she seriously tried to look at us and say it's our fault that her vacation was ruined, which honestly caused me to snap in a way that I'm sure my friend will never forget about. Because trust me, she had it coming and I don't regret this for a second. Here's what happened. Okay, so last year around this time, my friends and I planned a trip to Cancun for a dream nature resort and spa. We all wanted to eat, drink, dance, and relax on the beach, and we wanted to do this with no kids. Now, I'm the only one without kids, so I was already looking forward to spending time with just my friends to unwind. Every other trip before this was planned with the kids, but this time there would be no early bedtimes, no crying, no screaming, no sand in our drinks because kids think it's funny to throw sand. Well, 1 week before the trip, one of the friends said that she's bringing her 10-year-old kid, and this woman can never tell her kid no. We had all warned her beforehand that if this happens, we aren't going to change anything. Well, to say that I was annoyed was an understatement, but you know what? I sucked it up. I still had 2 friends that were going child-free and had no intention of changing any plans. My 2 other friends and I drank, we ate amazing food, we danced all night and spent the day at the beach. The friend with the kid expressed her frustration about the rest of us doing what we wanted, and she simply couldn't do that. But my response was to pretty much say, well, that really sucks, but we're not going to change the entire point of this trip just because of your inability to tell your kid no. We invited her to do what we were doing multiple times, but her response was always to say, I can't do that. My kid wants to go to another place. So there was definitely tension between the 3 of us and her the entire trip. Well, when we were making our long way back home, all 3 of us got a really nasty message from her fiance. He was calling us bad friends and how dare we not revolve our entire trip around her and their kid, that she had a terrible time and it was our fault. And I was like, pardon me, what did you say? That was pretty much the last straw for me. Now, I never tell my friends how to parent their children, but their daughter is so nasty. She is so spoiled and, like I've stated earlier, has never been told the word no ever. So please believe me when I say that this kid is super entitled. In contrast, my other friends are a lot more reasonable when it comes to their children. Their children are polite, they have general understanding about boundaries, and they behave really well for like 10-year-olds. So my text back to him was pretty much to say, well, we made these plans a year in advance, expecting us to be fine with the fact that you guys dropped it on us, that your child was coming a week before we were leaving, and then expecting us to change everything and just cancel all of our plans because, you know, you guys can't tell your kid no, is simply not fair for us at all. That is a you problem and not our problem. Now, here's the thing. I would understand if something came up and she had like no choice but to bring her kid. I mean, crap happens. People cancel. I get it. But that literally was not the case. Her fiance was home the entire time, and her grandmother was looking forward to watching her granddaughter, but her kid freaked out for not being allowed to go on the trip and they just couldn't tell her no. Well, now she and her fiance are super pissed. So honestly, are we the jerks in this situation? Are we really the reason why she had a terrible time on this vacation? Because right now I am very annoyed and I don't know what else to do. Bro, your friend's an idiot. Are you kidding me right now? Dude, what are you doing? Just get on the plane and run away from that kid. Throw her at the grandparents and be like, okay, this is your problem now. I gotta go and like be an adult and have fun. Like the fact that your friend had a choice to not bring their daughter, for me is all the proof you need that these people don't know what they're doing. Because the barrier of entry here is like, hey, if I don't bring my kid, I can do what we planned for a year, or I can bring my kid along and then act like, oh, this is your fault for not accommodating me. It's like, dude, no, why didn't you like accommodate yourself? Why did you do this to yourself? Like if someone throws themselves down a flight of stairs, are they gonna look at you and be like, wow, why did you put stairs there? It's like, what do you mean, dude? I didn't do this crap. You did it to yourself. What is happening? So no, you are absolutely not the jerk. This lady's an idiot. The fiance could have watched them. The babysitter could have watched them. There are so many options that could have taken care of this situation, but instead she decided to bring this nasty little brat along to ruin their trip. And you've got it right. That is literally not your problem, and that falls squarely on her shoulders. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A regular customer gave me their phone number in hopes that I would date them, and now I feel like I screwed things up because I politely told them that no, I'm not interested and that I have a boyfriend. And now I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. To start things off, I want to say that in hindsight, it was a bad decision, but I'm fairly new to serving, so I apologize if it was a dumb mistake. I work at a fairly small mom and pop restaurant, and there's a regular that's been visiting before I started working there. I started making casual conversation here and there on top of my manager's interaction with him. He always comes by himself, so I assumed he might be at the restaurant for some company while also enjoying his favorite foods. Well, one day he left his phone number, and like an idiot deer staring straight into the headlights, I just stood at his table and smiled and then slowly walked away afterwards, since I was still in customer service mode. Afterwards, I wanted to establish boundaries by stating that I had a boyfriend, but if they wanted to be on friendly terms and have a chat here and there, then that would be completely fine. Again, this is because I'm still under the assumption that maybe they're lonely or something like that. Well, they responded by saying no to the friendship offer because their intention was to date. After this, I thought everything was fine and it felt like everything returned to normal. Like I truly felt like I had a weight off my chest. The regular still came in and everything felt normal for a while, but recently I've had coworkers tell me that it looks like he's figured out my general schedule and that he's definitely been coming to the restaurant more and more. On top of that, I had a coworker tell me that his eyes constantly follow me as I move around the restaurant, and now I feel so much unease, and I just don't understand where this sudden change in behavior came from. I'm wondering if some people just get the wrong idea just because a server is always polite to them. I'm just trying to get through my shift because trust me, it is not that deep. Oh yeah, this guy absolutely had the wrong intention, and he definitely confused like a friendly customer service smile with this whole like, oh yeah, I'm into you. I'm being nice to you as your server because I want to date, not because that's my job requirement. Like, dude, don't go up to people in customer service and be like, oh, because they're being nice to me, suddenly that means we have a future together. It's like, no, they're trying to make rent and they're trying to get you out the door. They do not care about you. Like, sure, they want to help you out in any way that they can, but that's honestly as far as it goes. So no, you didn't do anything wrong. I think setting that boundary and being like, no, I'm not available, I'm not interested in you, or just saying whatever you need to, really is the best thing for this guy so he can eventually like move on. Even though from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like he's doing that anytime soon. My boyfriend tried to teach me a lesson by literally going out clubbing to make me feel jealous in the way that supposedly I made him feel jealous. But right now, I'm honestly really pissed off because this feels completely blown out of proportion. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do about this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm really upset and confused about this situation, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or not. For starters, I asked my boyfriend if I could go to a gaming cafe with him sometime, and my intention was honestly just to play games with him because I don't have a gaming PC, and I thought it would be nice to experience something that he enjoys together. But he said that he didn't like the fact that we would be surrounded by many men, and he really hates the fact that these men might come up to me and talk to me. I also told him that I don't want to avoid doing things just because of the presence of other men. If he had a problem with the idea, I would have been completely okay with him just telling me directly. Now, of course, I wanted him to understand my intentions, but I wasn't trying to force anything. Now, instead of talking to me about it, he texted my cousin asking if they could go clubbing. And for context, clubbing isn't even something we normally do. When I asked him why he did that, he said that he did it so that I could feel what he felt and basically be in his shoes. And that really pissed me off because it felt like he was trying to get revenge or balance things out instead of just communicating with me like an adult. The worst part is it triggered my trauma because in the past he used to do this kind of like revenge behavior where if I did something that he didn't like, he would purposely do something to hurt me back. I genuinely thought he had changed since then, but this situation made me feel like maybe he hasn't. And now I'm trying to call him to talk about it and explain how hurt and angry I am. And he's now just asking me to stop calling and texting him. And that honestly hurts even more. So am I wrong for being this upset about this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I gotta be honest. I think your boyfriend is incredibly immature and you honestly can do a lot better than this. Because bro, this guy has no reason to act this way. You were just asking to go to a gaming PC with him and be like, oh, let's spend time together. This could be fun. Which for the record, that does sound fun. Like, why not go out and do that? Is he seriously that insecure that he's like, oh no, there's gonna be other guys there and I don't want them talking to you. I couldn't stand it. And it's also not like you said, oh, I'm going to a gaming cafe. You literally asked him and said, hey, can we go and do this? This could be a fun like date night or something like that. So for him to go out of his way and be like, oh, I'm gonna get revenge by going clubbing. Now you know how I felt. And it's like, dude, what is happening right now? You were just asking if he wanted to do that. And instead, he's the one going out and actually trying to like be around women just to make you hurt. And I've got to be honest with you, and this is only from my perspective. If I had a girlfriend who did that to me, I would probably be like, okay, this is clearly not working and I don't think I want to be with you. Because this whole like, oh, I'm going to get you even, I'm going to get eye for an eye over literally anything is crazy behavior, especially when you didn't do anything in the first place. It's not like you went out clubbing to look for men, like you just asked to go out with your boyfriend. Like this really was just an innocent request that he blew completely out of proportion. So no, if anything, I think you're underreacting in this scenario. Your boyfriend is clearly toxic and he obviously just doesn't like you. And in my opinion, I think if I was in your shoes, I would be dating just about anybody else because this behavior is really weird. Am I the jerk for backing out of a trip with my friends? All because they've slowly changed all the activities to stuff that I can't participate in. Because right now I am super frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. Okay, so my friends and I have all been planning an end of the school year senior trip to New York ever since last year. We've all been super excited. We've already booked our Airbnb and we bought our tickets. Now I'm a year younger than all of them because I started high school a year early. And originally on our trip, we had planned some sightseeing stuff, as well as seeing some Broadway plays, visiting the flea markets, going to some art museums, and basically just going to all kinds of touristy New York things. Well, recently, with all of them turning 18, they've wanted to add things like nightclubs, tattoos, and piercings together on the docket. Now, I'm in no way opposed to this, and I said that it could be fun if we got like matching stick and pokes or whatever. However, I wouldn't really be able to visit bars and clubs with them due to being underage. They said they want to go to professional places and stuff and get things done right. And I said that's fine, but to limit this to like one night tops. That way I'm not just sitting at the Airbnb every single night alone doing nothing. I honestly would love to go because I do like parties and dancing and all this other stuff, but I've also been accepted to a prestigious university and I don't want to have anything on my record for the risk of like getting it rescinded. I said that if they feel strongly about going clubbing and stuff like that, I would try to just like sneak in with them. But they all told me that they don't want to risk getting kicked out of the club, so they said that I should just get a fake ID. Now this is something that could probably get me into legal trouble, and I really just don't want to risk it. When I told them that, they made it sound like they planned on going clubbing and stuff much more than we had originally intended, meaning I would basically be spending at least half the nights of the trip doing nothing. I told them that I hope they had fun, but if they're going to plan things that I can't really participate in, then I won't come on the trip with them because I'd rather go on a senior trip with other people where we do things that we all enjoy. My friends are now saying that I'm guilt tripping them into changing their plans, and that it's unfair if I cancel this close to the trip because it makes it a lot more expensive for everybody else. They also said that I'm over exaggerating a bit because I can still do all the daytime activities we had originally planned. You know, stuff like Broadway tickets and stuff like that. So according to them, I'm being over dramatic. But seriously, I really need to know from the internet, am I really being over dramatic by backing out of this since literally all their plans kind of revolve around stuff I can't really do? What should I do? Okay, the same logic these people have of like, oh wow, you're really making things inconvenient by changing the plans last second. Like bro, that's exactly what they're doing to you. That logic is so flawed it's not even funny. Like these friends of yours, by the way, are not good friends at all. Like they're even encouraging you to get a fake ID just to sneak into these clubs with them. Like I don't know about you, but that sounds like a really stupid idea. And in case you didn't put two and two together, even though I think you did, like no, you absolutely should not do that. Don't use a fake ID, like you're absolutely gonna get called out. You think the bouncer and the people up front checking it are not going to be like, yeah, that is 100% fake. They look at that stuff all the time. I guarantee you they're going to spot it and be like, yep, that's a phony. No way. Then you're going to get called out and you're probably going to get like publicly embarrassed or worse. So no, don't even bother with this group of people. I would absolutely back out if I was in your shoes because from the sounds of it, they don't care whether you go out with them or not. They just want you to stick with the plan so they don't have to spend as much money on the Airbnb. And that, in my opinion, is super toxic and not something that you should have to deal with. Am I the jerk for throwing away a 4-year relationship all because my boyfriend called me a buzzkill on my promotion night? Because after I broke up with him, he said that I'm hormonal and that I need therapy. And right now, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently ended things with my boyfriend, who I will call Liam, after we had been together for like 4 years. We shared an apartment, we shared a dog, and what I thought was a solid future. But ever since the breakup, his family and some of our mutual friends have been calling me impulsive, saying that I'm throwing away destroy a marriage track relationship over a single bad night. The truth is, it wasn't one night. It was 4 years of feeling like my emotions were an inconvenience to his schedule. Liam is the kind of person who's the life of the party as long as he's the narrator. He can spend hours dissecting his CrossFit personal records or the office politics at his tech firm, and I was always his biggest cheerleader. But over time, I noticed a pattern. Whenever I had a win, or more importantly, a bad day, Liam would physically start looking for an exit. He would start checking his phone, or he would suddenly remember he had to go to the store, and it was always something like that. The breaking point happened though last Tuesday. I've been working towards a senior analyst position for 18 months. I finally got the news that I landed it alongside with a significant raise. I was vibrating with excitement. I called Liam and I told him to meet me at our favorite steakhouse just to celebrate. When we sat down, I started telling him about the feedback my boss gave me, but not even 3 minutes in, Liam interrupted me to talk about how his coworker, who I will call Dave, bought some ergonomic keyboard he's been eyeing up. I tried to pivot back to my news and he just literally sighed and said, "Babe, we get it, you got the job. Can we just enjoy the dinner without making it a PowerPoint presentation?" And when he said that, I felt the air go out of me. I told him that it hurt my feelings that he didn't seem to care about something I worked so hard for. Well, his immediate response was to say, "Oh, here we go. You're being way too sensitive. It's just a title change. Don't let it get to your head and ruin the vibe." Now, I tried to drop it, but I was visibly quiet. Then, 10 minutes later, he got annoyed that I wasn't fun enough, called me a total buzzkill, and told me that my constant need for validation was exhausting. He then spent the rest of the dinner texting his group chat about a fantasy football trade. When we got home, I realized I couldn't do another 40 years of being told my feelings were a vibe kill. And it's here that I told him I wanted to break up. And when I said this, he was genuinely shocked. He told me I was being hormonal and dramatic, and that normal people don't end 4-year relationships over a dinner conversation. He eventually moved out to his brother's place, but he's been sending me long emails about how I'm blindsiding him and that I need therapy for my emotional instability. My mother even told me that I should have just waited for him to be in a better mood to talk about it. I'm starting to look at my furniture in this empty apartment and wonder if I really am just too sensitive, or if I finally just stopped accepting the bare minimum. So, am I the jerk for leaving him over this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Honestly, it sounds like this is the straw that broke the camel's back, because holy crap, your boyfriend sounds like an idiot. Here you are saying wow, I got this really good job. I'm really excited about this. Aren't you excited for me? And instead of him being oh my gosh, baby, I'm so happy for you. This is so exciting. Wow, you got an increase in pay. That's awesome. He instead talks about Dave and his stupid keyboard, or diverting it to something about him. Dude, what's happening right now? That's not how you respond to good news from your girlfriend. You need to be excited. You need to support her. Why would you sit there and be babe, it's not that big of a deal. This is so exhausting. You just want validation. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me right now? That is so ridiculous. So this guy's allowed to talk about all of his stuff and his personal records at CrossFit, but the second you bring up anything good about your life, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly you need therapy for your emotional instability and you're just being hormonal. Come on, that is so ridiculous. That's unfair. And the worst part about it is that this is not an isolated incident. This isn't the first time this guy's done this to the original poster either. So yeah, this entire situation sucks. I don't think you're the jerk. I think your boyfriend is a piece of garbage, and I honestly don't blame you for breaking up with him. He sounds like a piece of garbage, and I think you can do way better than this. My partner literally walked past me while I was on the floor in pain after I bumped my back, and now I simply feel like I can't get past this, because right now I'm pissed off and I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm really sorry if this is all a bit jumbled, but I'm writing this at work in between calls. This is about me and my partner, and it happened a few hours ago. For a bit of backstory, every 3 weeks or so, my partner meets up with his friends online to hang out and drink. He usually drinks half a bottle of whiskey, and to me it's all good and fine, he's allowed to have fun. Now, I needed to work on Saturday, so I went to bed at around midnight, with my alarm set for about 6:15 in the morning, and he must have gone to bed between about 3 to 5 in the morning, knowing him. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, I got woken up by a nightmare, and I jumped right out of bed. I somehow missed my step, I fell down and hit my back and my spine right on the corner, and I immediately went down crying because it hurt really badly. My partner then got woken up by his alarm at about 6:15 in the morning, and he saw me crying laying on my back. He came to me, and as I explained what happened, he said to wait a second and left in the direction of the kitchen and the bathroom. I thought he was going to get an ice pack or something like that, but instead he went to the toilet. Now, I've managed to sit myself up at this point, but I was still on the floor in pain and crying. Once he returned, he walked right past me to his side of the bed, got under the covers, and went right back to sleep. I don't know if he just forgot about me on the floor in his drunken mind or what, but seriously, that's not like him. Once I managed to get up on my own and turned on the nightstand light, light. He let out a groan, but that was about it. I then got myself ready and I went to work. And that's where I'm at right now for the next like 10 hours. My back still hurts, by the way, especially if I accidentally touch the part that I hit. And I know I'll be fine, but I'm just really mad about that. I kind of want to lean into it and text him my unfiltered thoughts, but I feel like I need an outside perspective first if I'm overreacting. I could have spoken up when he walked past me and laid down, but at that point I was so confused that I just sat there. So would I be the jerk, or would I be overreacting if I give him a piece of my mind? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, in my opinion, I think you would be overreacting because it sounds like this guy was just drunk. He was going to the bathroom, he literally was probably going to pee, so he most likely wasn't cognizant that you were in pain on the floor. Like, I don't know, it kind of seems like you're making a mountain out of a molehill because is this really that big of a deal? I understand that you got scared by a nightmare and you fell on the floor and you hit your back, but like, how is that his fault? Also, how is he supposed to know that's what happened if you don't get it out there and be like, oh my gosh, I hurt my back, please help me? Like, I don't know, this just seems like one of those situations where a bit of communication would go a long way instead of just going off on him and being like, wow, I can't believe you abandoned me on the floor after you were drunk and going to the bathroom and didn't know what was wrong. And sure, he probably shouldn't have walked off to go to the bathroom, but hey, the guy was not in a completely like cognizant and like aware state of mind. The original poster even clarified by saying that yeah, he went to bed at 5:30 in the morning. So he was running on like 30 minutes of sleep, meaning that he was sleep deprived, drunk, and he had to go to the bathroom. So yeah, I think there's a lot bigger things on his mind than you falling down and bumping your back. So yeah, I think you would be overreacting over like, I don't know, giving him a piece of your mind over something that really is not that big of a deal. My psycho pastor invited someone over to my house for Christmas Eve that we literally did not know about or even know in the first place. Things got so weird when we went home and found this man sitting on our couch as he had literally just walked in our front door and made himself at home. And I've honestly never been more pissed off in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is a throwback situation, and the people involved besides my husband are no longer a part of my life at all. But therapy is weird, and while working through something else entirely, the memory of this situation popped out from wherever it was lying dormant in my brain and hasn't gone away ever since. Let me set the scene. It was Christmas Eve in the early 2000s. It is below freezing outside, and snow is blowing lightly around. My husband and I are alone, but we'll be going to visit family the next day. We used to have our celebration on Christmas Eve with just the two of us, and then go to the big family event the next day. Now, there was this guy that our pastor was helping out who was around 20 years old. My spouse and I were in our early 20s as well, and the only thing the pastor knew for certain about us was that we didn't have kids and we didn't have plans for Christmas Eve that involved other people. Or maybe he didn't know the second part and just made an assumption. Either way, it's really not clear. Anyways, my husband and I went out for our annual Chinese food meal and to hang out looking at Christmas lights, and then planned to watch a movie or something at home. While out at dinner, my husband got a call from our pastor telling him that he'd sent the guy that we didn't know, we'll call him Brian for the sake of the story, over to our house because we weren't doing anything and thought we should be kind and share our Christmas Eve with this man. And no, this was absolutely not discussed with us prior. That needs to be absolutely clear. Well, he sent the guy to our house on a dang bicycle in freezing temperatures and was irate when we didn't leave our food to go visit with Brian. We were then lectured about Christian love and how we were not being good Christians by not inviting Brian along. And it's like, what are you talking about? So eventually we go home and Brian is on our couch. Presumably he was told to just go in. I mean, we live way out in the country, so the doors were definitely not locked. And at this point, I'm shaking with anger. I tensely said good night and I went to bed because I absolutely was not dealing with a relative stranger when my little introverted heart had been promised one night of peace out of the week of chaos. All of this was reported back to the pastor by Brian, who was so hurt and put out by us not being there when he arrived. Now, I thought nothing of it, honestly, until months later when I asked the pastor for a letter of recommendation, which he willingly gave, only to find out he wrote horrible things about my character and my uncharitable nature. And this is based, I can only assume, on that event since I serve regularly at the church, and I help quite a lot of people if I'm being completely honest, which this pastor would have known about. So seriously, am I the jerk from this situation? Because it really bothers me and I'm honestly not sure what to make of it. Okay, this pastor crossed about 7,000 boundary lines in my opinion because this is crazy. Look, if this guy really wanted to show Christian love, he would have been like, look, Brian, come to my house and have dinner with my family. We'll give you food, we'll give you a place to stay, and you can have a fantastic Christmas. Like, if that's really what he's trying to preach, then absolutely practice what you preach, brother. Why on earth would you then try to like force that on someone else who isn't even home, dude? If the pastor had like discussed this ahead of time and tried to convince you to do it, it still gives you the option to be like, no, we got other plans, we're not going to do it. But the fact that he literally said, okay, Brian, go over to their house, open the door, and sit on their couch. They're expecting you. Don't worry. This is all about God's love. Don't worry. They're going to take care of you. Like, that is some crazy behavior. This is not okay. Like, that would be a one-way ticket to me never showing back up at that church ever again. There's no way I would put up with that, dude. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because this pastor crossed a line that absolutely should not have been crossed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she cannot bring her emotional support peacock to Thanksgiving in my home? Because right now she is freaking out about me saying no to this, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this is gonna sound insane, but here we go. My sister, who we will call Emma, is 26 years old and recently got this emotional support peacock named Sir Reginald after her breakup with her boyfriend of 3 years. She claims it helps with her anxiety, but honestly, I think she just wanted something exotic. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year at my apartment, and I told her that yes, she can come, but the peacock has gotta stay home. Well, when I said that, she flipped out, saying I'm discriminating against her disability, and also saying that Sir Reginald is legally protected. Now, the thing is, my building doesn't allow birds, and also my girlfriend is terrified of large birds since she got attacked by a goose as a kid. Emma called me ableist and said that she won't come if her support animal can't be there, and my mom is now guilt-tripping me, saying that I'm ruining the family holiday. But like, it's a peacock. I'm in a studio apartment with 8 people. So honestly, am I being unreasonable here? I feel bad, but also this seems completely ridiculous, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm right there with the original poster. This is some crazy stuff, dude, because this is literally not the same as a service animal. Like, trust me, I get it. Emma's going through a hard time, and this peacock, for whatever reason, is helping her out. But it is not the same thing as having like a service dog that helps you function on a day-to-day basis. Because from what I know, and no, I'm not an expert, but service animals absolutely have like legal protection, whereas emotional support animals definitely don't. Like, service animals do stuff for people that they just can't do themselves. For example, like a dog helping someone who's blind navigate a city. And it's like, sure, I'm not doubting the validity of like a peacock being an emotional support animal, but she's phrasing this like it's some kind of disability. And I just don't think she knows what she's talking about when she says, oh yeah, I'm disabled. Because there are people out there who actually have disabilities who use service animals who would probably look at Emma in this story and be like, what in the world are you talking about? You just went through a bad breakup. Are you kidding me right now? So honestly, I'm right there with the original poster. I think not wanting a peacock in your home is completely reasonable, and in my opinion, I think the way Emma's acting is incredibly annoying. My entitled neighbor demands that I move my car that's legally parking on the street, as she claims we're blocking workers from going to her house, resulting in me firing back at this lady with a note that honestly is the most condescending thing she will ever read in her life. Here's what happened. Okay, today I had my first real Karen moment. We don't own any property, so we rent the top floor of a house near Boston with my significant other. Our lease allows us to park one car in the driveway, so I park my second car on a nearby side street where I have a valid residential parking permit. My next door neighbor is currently having work done on his home as he's building a new deck, and he's also parking on the street with a permit. Well, last night I parked my car on the street near his car, which was completely legal and well within the rules. But this morning when I went to pick up my daughter from preschool, I found a note on my windshield that read the following: move your car immediately. You have blocked access to workers that need to do scheduled work. Find somewhere else to park. Well, it turns out the same note was left on 3 other cars as well. My girlfriend and I decided to write a calm and respectful letter in response, which we placed in the woman's mailbox. And our note said the following: we appreciate the handwritten urgency, but just to clarify, this is a public street. And yes, we park there legally with valid permits. Sharing is caring after all. If there's scheduled work happening, it usually comes with signage, not handwritten notes from someone who doesn't live on the street. I totally understand the frustration of not being able to control public parking though. Must be really tough. Wishing you all the best in your efforts to micromanage spaces that aren't even yours. So we've left that note and we're waiting to see what happens because I'm sure this is not going to go over well. Okay, dude, I love what the original poster did. This is literally a beautiful response, especially when you consider how they did it. The original poster actually shared a picture of what these notes looked like, and the note the neighbor left looks like it was written on like a napkin of some kind, whereas the other one had like a bunch of like rainbow stickers on it and like a lot of like smiley faces, and it really digs in the fact that this neighbor is being irrational and incredibly stupid. So yeah, good for you for putting this lady in her place and for leaving leaving this note. This is brilliant. Because if anything, this is like a masterclass in the art of being polite but also incredibly snarky. Am I the jerk for wanting to leave my husband after he has consistently disrespected me and done things to me that have made my life incredibly unpleasant? Because right now I'm seriously at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I seriously think I'm leaving my husband and I really just don't know what to do. Like every time we get into a disagreement of some kind, I see myself Googling divorce and new places to start over with my kids. To start things out, I'm a 29-year-old female and my 34-year-old husband and I have been married for almost 7 years now. We have 3 kids together and one of those kids is not his in terms of like blood relation, but he has raised this kid since they were 1 year old. And our kids' ages range from 10 to about 1.5. He is a great father and a genuine person. He was raised in an African household and can tend to be a bit rough around the edges, similar to what I understand his upbringing is. I was raised without much culture if it matters to folks who may think about it in one way or another. He is at times a great husband, but he can also stoop to really low points with me and seems to have a shorter and shorter fuse for my feelings lately, which is why I'm writing this in the first place. Today, he sent me a reel on Facebook Messenger about signs for adult women who have high-functioning autism. I couldn't think of any reason he sent me this other than to compare me to this woman. He does have an autistic adult brother who they described as high-functioning, and I'm not saying anything against folks who have this diagnosis. I mean, I have blood and married relatives who are in this diagnosis, and I love them with all my heart, but I could not figure out why he sent the video. It didn't remind me of his brother at all. I was more struck on the adult woman part of it, and the fact that he sent it to me. Like, that felt more common. So I straight up asked him, are you comparing me to this woman? And for the record, I've asked him numerous times to not compare me to other women because he has an almost toxic habit of doing it, especially when he's upset. But he said, yeah, I do some of those things. And I said, I do not understand though. I don't do those things. Why would you say that? He then just said, oh, I'm just kidding, even though his previous message had no emojis or indication of any joking tone. Plus, it's a black and white message. I didn't understand his tone from that alone. But I told him that's convenient when he said he was just joking, as in I feel that he knew I was not enjoying the conversation, and now he's backtracking by saying it's just a joke. But he just said to me, it's just a joke, never mind. He then said that I asked a weird question by wanting to know why he sent me that. But it's like I genuinely did not understand why though. He later came home and told me it was about his brother, but I still just don't see a lot of similarities between the traits in his video and his brother. On top of that, it was about an adult woman with autism and not about a man. Well, he's now mad at me and telling me I'm annoying him for making it about myself, and that he sent it to his mother too regarding his brother, and states that she would never take it there. Well, I apologize for not understanding the joke, and I asked if he could even see my point at all. I thought he was making a statement to me about a very big opinion about my demeanor, with him essentially saying that I have autism. And again, I'm not offended that he would think that about me, but to tell someone that way by sending a comparison reel and then joke about it was just really unsettling to me. Also, the fact that we can't move past it and he can't see where he went wrong by his joke, or even come to the resolution that I couldn't understand the joke because of the way it was delivered, is honestly super frustrating, and I feel as though I'm at least owed that. Our fights have been this way lately, and he seems to be getting more and more stubborn, and I'm just kind of done feeling like a punching bag or a doormat. I'm not sure where to go from here, and I feel like I'm being dramatic for feeling this way over a misunderstanding about a Facebook video, but I think it's more of how he's being currently about it that's really affecting me more. Now, other examples, as I'm sure people are wondering, is that sometimes when I'm frustrated and maybe venting, he would say that I need to be a mother, because according to him, his mother would do all this and more and just never complain. And those statements hurt, and I have had to ask him over several disagreements not to make those kind of statements towards me. Now, one of which he made after we had a month-long visit from various family members of his, and this is when I was holding our youngest at 6 weeks after he left me home alone with a baby and my toddler while I was exclusively nursing, and meanwhile, his 2 teenage brothers were occupying the common areas of our house. Now, I could not leave the bedroom, like really, because I was nursing, and the baby was cluster feeding that week, and my toddler wanted to be everywhere, and I definitely did not want to be exposed to his brothers. So with all that in mind, it was exhausting and overwhelming, and when he was taking too long to come home, and I let him know about that, we got into a fight, and he yelled at me to be a mother and not complain that I had to have 2 kids alone. And that's not even really why I was overwhelmed, it's just that I couldn't do it comfortably, and he wasn't being considerate of that at all. He was trying to make their visit not about them meeting our new baby, but more about his family and playtime, all while I was at home with the kids a lot. Since then, he makes these comparisons a lot, and I'm really just sick of them, and I've honestly had enough. And yes, I have told him. I have sat him down and I've told him I can't be treated like this. I will leave if something doesn't give. So with all that in mind and circling back, am I the jerk for for getting offended over this Facebook reel that he sent me, because right now it really does feel like a breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, your husband does not sound like a good partner if you ask me. Like, this guy would rather have playtime with his family instead of stepping in and being a father, or even being like a decent husband. Because if you ask me, that Facebook post was absolutely geared towards you. He literally sent that because he's like, oh yeah, my wife is probably autistic. Let me send this to her. And then when you didn't respond to the way you wanted to, he's like, oh, it was just a joke. Just kidding. You can't be mad anymore. I was joking. And I hate people who do that. Like, genuinely, it drives me crazy. I can't stand people like this. And the fact that he's trying to pull that on you is completely toxic. So no, you're not the jerk for like feeling upset about this and getting offended. And honestly, I don't blame you for being like, I think I need to start over and find a new life. I will say that's a big decision. So maybe really think this over and like weigh your options before you make some kind of like knee-jerk decision, because this would really upend your life and all of your kids pretty quickly. But regardless, I do think your husband's being pretty toxic and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Today, my boyfriend surprised me with a gift that honestly left me feeling very unsettled, because right now I'm upset and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 4 months now, and things have been going well. We see each other multiple times a week and communicate frequently. We've only had one major argument prior to this one, which was resolved soon afterwards. However, the challenge that came up recently made things more complicated. He showed up to my apartment unannounced with flowers. Instead of me responding happily, I stood there shocked and confused. We had been texting back and forth about random things all day, and he asked if I was home, but I did not think that meant that he would stop by. I hugged him lightly and I avoided eye contact because I was so caught off guard. Also, I was in my pajamas that I've never worn in front of people, and I just looked really rough. Lastly, my apartment was in disarray, and it was in the middle of a work day. Anyways, I told him he could chill with me for a little bit, but I have to get back to work. He then asked me if I could take a 5-minute break, and I said no, I should really get back to work. Well, immediately his mood shifted. I noticed this and I start to ask what's wrong, but he just wouldn't even look at me. Finally, he admitted that he felt a bit hurt by my response to his surprise, and I explained that I was completely caught off guard and I just froze up. I said I didn't like surprises. I appreciate the gesture, but showing up to my apartment unannounced did not sit right with me. Then he said he did this for National Girlfriend's Day because we both were busy tonight. I told him I love the thought behind it, but I don't respond well to surprises. He then said he understood but was clearly hurt, and then he left. I'm naturally a very private person, and he had never done any gesture like that without asking me first. It really felt like my boundaries were crossed. So seriously, is there some kind of like resolution to this? I feel very unsettled with the way things were left off, and honestly, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest. You may feel like your boundaries were crossed in some way, but guess what? You never explained these boundaries to him in the first place. So I'm sorry, but no boundaries were crossed. Just because you're telling him after the fact doesn't mean that he knew this ahead of time. It's also worth mentioning that they've only been together for like 4 months apparently, and it's like, okay, well, why are you getting so upset over something that really was meant to be in good faith? And also, why would you be upset over something like this? This seems really sweet and not malicious at all. I totally understand that you don't like surprises, and he'll definitely know that in the future, but in my opinion, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. And in my opinion, I think you're being very overdramatic. Am I pestering a guy who's coming with us on a trip that he needs to pay his share of the Airbnb that we're all renting out? Because right now he is literally giving me the runaround and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so recently I went on a trip with my girlfriend and 2 of her friends, as well as my friend and someone else they brought with them. The Airbnb was $56 per person and was paid through my girlfriend's credit card. A few days passed by and I asked in an Instagram group chat with my friend and their friend who's coming along to send the money for the trip. Well, my friend pays shortly after that, but I get nothing from the other guy. Now, I've never met this guy before and I don't want to rush him, so I decide to just wait because I want to have some kind of benefit of the doubt. This guy then texted me randomly through his phone number, which I didn't give, just to try and prank me regarding my work. Now, I figured out it was him immediately, and we just talked here and there throughout the day. He was saying that we should do another hiking trip with our friend, and then later on, I asked him to send the $56 over to me. This guy then asked me why, and I tell him, well, it's for the Airbnb, but he thinks I'm talking about the Airbnb for the next trip, but then I tell him otherwise. He then tells me he gets paid on the 17th and that he'll send it then. I then just say to him, okay, that's fine, and I let it be. And my girlfriend also, for the record, does not want to rush him either. Well, a few days after the 17th, I check up on him, and he says he accidentally spent all the money that he got paid. Now, this is to the point where my girlfriend needs to pay off her credit card already. He asked for some kind of extension, and I say to him, okay, but just do it as soon as you can, because the credit card has got to be paid off. He then just says to me, you can't pay it off yourself? Now, as it is the 31st, I still have gotten nothing. My girlfriend does not know about the last message that he sent me, and I have not told my friend that his friend owes me money as we are all in the midst of a good friend's death. I honestly don't don't know what to do and I don't want to cause problems. So am I the jerk for asking this guy to pay his share for the Airbnb? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. This is some stupid behavior. This guy's clearly playing you and he's obviously just trying to be a jerk about this, and that's not fair and you really don't deserve that. And yeah, I totally understand that there's things going on and you don't want to cause problems, but guess what? This guy's giving you the runaround. He's literally avoiding paying for a trip that he's participating in, and that is incredibly annoying in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk at all. You need to get this taken care of, and this guy needs to pay up because what he's doing right now is completely unacceptable. I feel that my boyfriend has changed after a recent fight that has made him very emotionally distant. And even though he's saying that nothing's wrong and that he hasn't changed, I really feel that something went wrong, and at this point, I don't know how to fix the situation. Here's what's happening. So my boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for about 2 years now, and we used to be a really fun couple. We supported each other a lot and genuinely enjoyed spending time together. Though we had occasional fights, especially during college, we always managed to work through them. Now, my boyfriend is someone who tends to avoid conflict. During arguments, he shuts down or ignores me until he calms down. But I'm the exact opposite. I need to talk things through and clear the air. A few days ago, we had a big fight. He said something hurtful and I got upset, and I didn't talk to him for a day. Later, I felt bad and I messaged him, but something had completely changed. He told me things like, "I don't think we have a future," or "You're dating the wrong guy. It's better to end this before it becomes more difficult." And he had never said anything like that before. I asked him to give us one more chance, and after some time, he eventually agreed. But ever since then, things have felt really different. His messages seem distant, like there's less warmth, excitement, or even effort in any of them. He says he's busy or that he behaves this way when he's home, and while that is partially true, the emotional tone now feels colder than ever before. I've asked him if he's still interested in this relationship or if I should stop trying, and his response is always something like, "Well, you're overthinking. I've moved on from that fight and you should too. I haven't changed. This is how I've always talked and you're just noticing it now." To be fair, he's not entirely wrong. He still responds and still talks to me in his own way, but I can't shake this feeling of disconnection. Maybe I'm overanalyzing the lack of emojis or the short replies. I know that sounds silly, but it's affecting how secure I feel. I love him deeply and I don't want to lose him, but I feel stuck, constantly wondering whether I ruined everything with that one argument. So how do I stop feeling like something's off? Am I imagining it, or is there something I need to acknowledge and just act on? Because right now, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, so based on what you described, it does sound like your boyfriend's kind of pulling away a little bit. Like, this doesn't seem like one of those situations where you're misreading the room. Like, he really does seem like he's pulled back in some kind of way, so I can completely understand why you're stressed out about this. So yeah, hopefully this works out because it does seem like something went wrong, and I think some healthy communication will probably go a long way in this scenario. An entitled jerk scams me and a bunch of people into doing work for him for his real job, as he lied to us saying he was looking for interns for his company, despite the fact that he used us just to get work done at his real job. So I decided to get some revenge by exposing him to his current employer, resulting in this side business getting shut down, as well as this guy most likely getting fired. Here's what happened. So I'm a rising senior at a reputable engineering school in my country. I was looking for internships for the summer, and I came across a job posting on WellFound. I applied casually, and a few days later, I got a take-home assignment as part of the recruitment process and was asked to join a Discord server to better connect potential candidates with the hiring team. Well, I did some digging, and I found out that the company has very little in terms of a digital footprint. Their LinkedIn page did not mention their founder's name or any dedicated human resources person. Nevertheless, I still joined the Discord, and I tried my best to complete the assignments, which took a whole day to brainstorm. The assignment basically had a lot of stuff that could benefit the company. Since I did not have an internship, I still took my chances. I think I did pretty well, and I also had a great resume for the role. Anyways, a few days after submitting, I get a rejection email, and I honestly didn't really mind it, because I know that getting an internship isn't that easy. But then, I reached out to some other people from the Discord, and I asked them if someone was interviewed. A guy there told me that everyone was rejected, and they did the whole hiring thing to just get their work done from a ton of people. Well, I immediately got furious and literally searched every member of their Discord server and ultimately found the co-owner. I then saw his LinkedIn, and I discovered that he was working full-time for a company and was running this startup on the side. I went to LinkedIn and I found 2 human resources people from his employer, and it's here that I got their work email ID, and I decided to expose this guy to them for moonlighting. I gathered all the proof from WellFound, LinkedIn, Discord, and the co-founder's personal portfolio, where he had mentioned his startup as his side project, even though they were definitely running a full-time company. Now, fast forward a few days and the startup's Discord server is deleted. Their Reddit page went private, their WellFound says that this company has been closed, and the founder's portfolio page is gone. Since all of this happened, I'm assuming that human resources definitely talked to him, and he was most likely fired. And this was a person, by the way, with 2 master's degrees, 7 7 to 8 years of experience, and I'm just a 20-year-old college student, and I'm sure he could get another job, but I'm just glad that I got my revenge on this guy because what he was doing was so messed up. Oh man, this guy absolutely is a con artist, like seriously. He literally scammed you and a bunch of other people into like doing work for him, and that's messed up if you ask me. Like seriously, there's no good excuse for that. So good for you for exposing this guy. He absolutely deserved to get shut down, especially if he's going to be taking advantage of people like this, because that is just unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to take time off of my work schedule just to help my friend set up for her wedding, especially after she volunteered my boyfriend without asking me first? Here's what's happening. I'm a 35-year-old female and I'm a bridesmaid for my friend who we will call Anna. The wedding is at the end of August and it's about 2 hours away. The bridal party consists of me, as well as Christine, Marla, Chris, who is a male friend, and Anna's sister. All of the names, by the way, are fake. And my boyfriend, who we will call Tristan, who is also a part of our friend group, is officiating everything. So far, I've paid for the bridesmaid dress, the bachelorette party, which I helped organize and pay for, the bridal shower party, the wedding gift, and my transportation and accommodations. I'm about $1,500 in, and that's before the wedding gift itself. Now, back in May, Anna messaged me, Marla, and Christine saying that she told Chris he needs to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday before the wedding. It felt like her way of announcing that we were all expected to be there early without asking. I then called her and I explained that it wasn't reasonable for all of us to take a full day off of work, especially since her fiance's family gave her like $50,000 that she's been bragging about nonstop, which could easily cover a setup crew. To her credit, she backtracked and messaged and said, "Sorry about the earlier text. If you can make it up to help, that would be really appreciated. But I understand that people have jobs. I need everyone there for the rehearsal at 4 o'clock p.m. We all agreed to that plan, and then this week she sends a new message to the group. "We'll have access to the venue at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. If someone can help before 2 o'clock, it would be super appreciated. Also, at 2 o'clock, we'll have a 45-minute rehearsal. You'll have plenty of time to relax before the dinner." When Chris pushed back on this, because he has work, and mentioned Tristan drives us, Anna just replied in the group chat saying that Tristan will be there Friday to help out, which is something she said without even asking me first. And you know what? This is what really got to me. She's always making weird comments like, "Oh, Tristan would do anything for me." And now she's volunteering him like he's her personal backup. Tristan later told me that when she brought it up in person, she phrased it as if I'd already agreed. So he said yes because he didn't think he had a choice. Well, when I told him I hadn't, he let out a laugh and said, "All right, no big deal. Just blame me and then we won't go." So I texted her. I reminded her that she'd originally said 4 o'clock p.m. I told her it was too late for us to take off work and that Tristan wouldn't be there Friday. Well, she just read the message, reacted to it with a heart, and then never replied. And just for a bit of context, Anna and her fiance are already legally married. They went to City Hall last year. None of us were invited. And also, she broke up with her ex of 5 years in June, started dating her now husband immediately, who is, by the way, a regular at the bar where she worked at, got engaged by August, and has bragged about his $40,000 ring and trust fund ever since then. Between the cost, the time off, and her volunteering my boyfriend, I feel completely taken advantage of. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to go early in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. It sounds like your friend's super annoying and they're probably just excited to get married or something like that, but it does sound like they're also like really stepping over the line when it comes to like volunteering Tristan, because clearly Tristan was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I only signed up to say yes because I thought you were like in the loop." And for me personally, and this is just my opinion, the second someone volunteers me for something without asking me about it first, that's the second I no longer trust them and will probably never want to talk to them ever again. Like that's a one-way ticket to me never being your friend probably ever again. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to like go early for this, because from the sounds of it, your friend is super unorganized and just a little bit toxic. And that is not something I would ever entertain in the slightest. My mom has given me an ultimatum when it comes to my girlfriend, saying that if I stay with her, she's gonna disappear from my life completely. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been seeing my girlfriend for about 9 months now. I really do love her a lot and I feel like she could definitely be the one. The chemistry was amazing and I moved into her place after a few months. We've been living together ever since and things have been going pretty smoothly. My mom had a very tumultuous relationship with my dad, who suffered from undiagnosed mental health conditions and some physical ones for the majority of my childhood, and they divorced when I was a teenager. Well, because of this, she has some trauma regarding mental health. My partner has recently been going through some mental health problems and had to go to the hospital for a short stay, and it seems like a temporary but potentially reoccurrent problem. Well, because of this news, my mom has provided me the ultimatum between her and my partner. I was told if I choose my partner, she will disappear from my life completely. Now, my mother is definitely psychologically unwell, but she also refuses to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, so there's not much I can do about it. She has told me in the past in several outbursts to not come home, saying that I'm not her son anymore and all this other stuff, but she seems pretty serious this time around. I know we've been only together for a short time, but I really can see myself spending the rest of my life with my girlfriend. What should I do? Okay, this is some weird stuff because honestly, the second someone gives an ultimatum, especially about something like this where it's like, wait a second, how does this have anything to do with you in the first place? Like, that's the second some big red flags pop up in my head because this is so irrational. I understand that your mom had like a bad go around with your dad, as he clearly had some undiagnosed mental health problems and all this other stuff going on, but that doesn't mean it's related to your girlfriend in any way. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? This is so stupid. Just because that happened to her doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. And obviously, from the sounds of it, your girlfriend is way different than your dad. She's actually like getting help that she needs as opposed to your dad who didn't do anything to help himself out. So personally, I find this ultimatum ridiculous and I'm so sorry you're dealing with this because you definitely do not deserve this. I moved to my partner's country after I got pregnant and now I feel like his family always comes first above me because at this point I'm really overwhelmed and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it's all going down. I'm a 28-year-old female and I moved to Mexico last year to be with my partner who's 32 years old. We were only supposed to be visiting. I had been living and working in Australia and had just gotten approved for a visa extension after working so hard for it. I was so proud and excited about the future I had built for myself. But then during a vacation with my partner, I found out that I was pregnant. We were happy, but everything completely changed. I couldn't return to Australia. The life I worked so hard for slipped away overnight, and that still hurts me to this day. At first, we lived with his parents. They were kind and spoke English, but I quickly became overwhelmed. I come from a distant, emotionally reserved family, and constant interaction, daily socializing, and living in someone else's space while pregnant was exhausting. I was physically and emotionally drained, and we were constantly visiting extended family. Eventually, I asked my partner if we could move out, and thankfully, we did exactly that. Things became a little calmer. Then our daughter was born. I love her more than anything, but I've been struggling. I think I might have postpartum depression. I'm doing almost everything too, by the way. Breastfeeding, pumping, cooking, cleaning, laundry, bottle washing, baby care, even taking Spanish classes. I've told my partner again and again how overwhelmed I am. I know he is busy because he has his own business and he works from home, so he's working all the time. So I understand if he is tired after working and not having enough sleep, but it's like me too, I sleep even less. But I literally begged him for help, even with small things like not leaving dirty dishes everywhere, but bring them to the sink to make it easier for me. He helps take care of the baby with like diaper changes, and lately he helps me bathe her almost every day because I have back pain. Now when it comes to house chores, he sometimes helps, but most of the time it's on me. I really don't want to argue about the same thing over and over again, but I feel like I'm constantly repeating myself and just being ignored. We've talked about taking a trip to recharge, but when I suggest ideas, he says they are way too much of a tourist destination and then just doesn't follow up. When he brings up travel, it's almost always about visiting family. Every single time. I once suggested spending Christmas somewhere snowy like in the United States, and his first response was to say, "What about my parents? What about my brother and his wife? You know, who doesn't even have a US visa." He is a US citizen himself, but it's never just about us. He says I'm not being forced to go, but when I say no, he gives me disappointed looks. So I always end up going out of guilt. He tells me, "Oh, they're your family too, but they don't feel like mine. I barely know them. I come from a broken home, and I struggle with closeness, even with my own relatives." I feel like he's pushing me into something I'm not emotionally ready for. But lately, it's gotten even worse. His parents temporarily moved in with his grandparents, so now when we visit, it's even more people, all speaking Spanish with more pressure to socialize. I feel so drained by these visits, I just sometimes skip meals just to avoid sitting at the table and pretending that I'm okay. It's not because I dislike them, it's just too much for me. I feel like I disappear. I've been asking him for months to help finalize our baby's passport, but it's been 4 months and still I get nothing. I'm the one carrying all the emotional and mental load and I'm honestly drowning. I know his family is going through a lot right now. His dad has cancer, his mom recently had surgery, his grandma is about to have one, and his grandpa just had eye surgery, and I still feel bad after he got stung by scorpions. I truly understand why he wants to be there for them, but during my pregnancy, I lost all 3 of my grandparents. I never got to say goodbye. I'm grieving too, even if I wasn't that close to them. I'm here away from my family, my culture, my friends, and the future I worked so hard for. And I feel like no one even sees that, not even him. He wants me to bond with his family, but he's never even asked me if I want to. He will just turn to our 4-month-old and say, "Are you excited to visit your grandparents?" But never once has he asked me, "Are you excited?" I finally told him, "Look, look, you're the one who wants to go. I'm not. Now, here's the thing. I'm trying to be a good mom. I'm trying to be a good partner, but I'm exhausted and I'm grieving. And I feel like I just don't matter. How do I talk to him in a way that actually gets through? I'm trying not to be selfish, and I know his family needs him, but I feel like I'm slowly falling apart. I don't want to resent him, but I'm honestly getting close. Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that sounds really rough. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That kind of sounds like my personal nightmare. Like I would not handle that situation well at all. So if it's any consolation, like you're handling this way better than I would. Like I would be pissed off and really down in the dumps. There wouldn't be a lot of things that could kind of pull me out of it. So like you're handling this really well. But I think in this scenario, talking to your husband and being like, look, I'm overwhelmed and I'm losing it. I'm burnt out and I need some kind of help here. Something like that would be probably super helpful in articulating that, yeah, you're drowning and you need a break. Because it sounds like you're handling all this by yourself. And yeah, I get that your husband has his own like business and stuff like that, but seriously, he should really be more involved. You should not be expected to handle all of this by yourself on top of adjusting to a new culture that you're kind of like thrown into. So hopefully this all works out because this really does sound very frustrating and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with it. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my cousin borrow my BMW just so he can use it for his wedding? Because right now he's claiming that I'm ruining his big day by saying no, and at this point I'm just super frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I own a BMW that I've spent years working on. For reference, I'm a 31-year-old male, and this is my dream car that I take care of religiously. Like, I don't even let valet drivers touch it. My cousin, who's a 28-year-old male, is getting married next week. He asked me if he could borrow my BMW for the ceremony so that he could arrive in style, but I politely said no, explaining that I don't let anyone drive my car, not even close family. Well, when I said that, he got upset, and he said that I was ruining his big day and that I care more about a car than my family. Some of my relatives think I'm being selfish and that it's just one day, so why not just hand it over? But from my perspective, if something happened to the car, it simply wouldn't be worth the risk. Weddings are hectic and parking lots are chaotic, and accidents happen. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for refusing to let him borrow my BMW? Because right now, I'm honestly still pretty annoyed. No, this guy's so stupid. The fact that your cousin's trying to be like, oh, come on, you gotta worry about your family. You're ruining my big day by not handing over your expensive car. Like, dude, come on. If he really wants a fancy car, then he can rent one like anybody else. That way he can have the extravagant entrance that he wants, and also he doesn't ruin your car in the process. And no, he's probably not gonna wreck it. Like, I'm sure he's gonna be a reasonable person, but the original poster, in my opinion, has it right. Weddings and parking lots all get really hectic sometimes, and accidents absolutely can happen. So in my opinion, I think you're not the jerk and you absolutely are well within your right to tell him no. And if he really wants to take this in a bad way, then honestly, that's on him and not on you. My entitled sister gets me incredibly cheap chocolates and a cheap card for my birthday, as she did this in a very petty and spiteful way. So I decided to fight fire with fire and destroy her with kindness by returning the favor in a way that truly left her shocked and incredibly embarrassed. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I had a very big argument with my sister. The story is far too long to post, but it's something that was building since we were kids. She always treated me very badly, but I always kept it amicable for the family. But this time it went too far, and we had a massive blowout on our family's group chat. Anyways, we ignored each other for some time after that, but finally had to appear face to face at a family gathering, which happened to be a few weeks after my birthday. Now, I really should explain, but I hate my birthday, and I wouldn't care if someone didn't want to buy me a present, as I get very uncomfortable receiving them. But that birthday, my sister rocks up with a present and a card for me, and it was just a small box of cheap chocolates and a card. Both of them, by the way, with the prices still on them. And the chocolates were like $2 and the card was like maybe 25 cents. Now, here's the thing. If that's all someone can afford to buy, or even all that someone wants to spend, I have zero issue with that whatsoever. But the fact that she left the prices on and the smirk on her face let me know that it was a deliberate dig. She really is the spiteful type, and I just knew it. So her birthday comes around a couple of months later, and I immediately thought about how I should handle it. I mean, I could easily find a cheaper box of chocolate and a cheaper card to leave the prices on, but then I remembered a quote my mom used to say a lot. If you want to get back at them, just destroy them with kindness. So I went out and I bought a moderately expensive and very thoughtful gift that I knew she would love. And I bought the most expensive card I could find, which was about $5. I didn't leave the price on the gift as I thought that was a little over the top, and the thoughtfulness of it was enough, but I did leave the price on the card. Well, that smug smirk on her face when she gave me my present was nowhere to be seen, but instead it was replaced by sheer shock and embarrassment. We still haven't talked about it years later, but the pettiness from there on out definitely stopped. Oh yeah, this absolutely seemed very intentional and very targeted. Like, this is some stupid behavior if you ask me. Like, honestly, just be normal. normal. I can't stand pettiness or like passive aggressiveness, where someone's clearly making digs at you without actually making any kind of comment. And it's clear that she was trying to make some kind of like remark towards you of like, oh yeah, you're only worth cheap chocolates and a cheap card. It's not worth buying anything more for you. Or something like that. Like this really is kind of what I'm getting from this. So honestly, good for you for like fighting fire with fire. Because from the sounds of it, your sister sounds very annoying. So getting back at her in this way just seems to make a lot of sense. Am I the jerk for having a male friend come and visit me who was making the time to stop by while on a cross-country road trip? Because right now, my boyfriend is very pissed off at me and is even going as far as sleeping in the house that we're remodeling. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 29-year-old female, and I met this friend who I will call Rick in 2019 while I was working a seasonal wildland fire job in Idaho. We spent 5 months working together, and we were in the same truck assignment on the crew, so we especially spent a lot of time together. Now, we've only ever had a platonic relationship. I am still in touch with them and a few others from the crew, both male and female, and I visited and also been visited by about 5 to 6 other people from this job. After this job, I lived in California and Oregon, and Rick continued to live in Idaho, and I saw him a few times when I would visit Idaho for rafting or kayaking trips, either camping with him and the others I was traveling with, or staying at his Forest Service camper, and again, always having platonic separate sleeping arrangements. We talk on the phone once every few months, and Rick also has a girlfriend of about 2 years. For additional context, Rick has interacted with my parents when I would call home, and although he doesn't know them that well, he has had a friendly acquaintance with them from afar. Well, flash forward to present day, and Rick is relocating from Idaho back to his home state of South Carolina, and I now live in my home state of Minnesota, and it adds about 2 hours to his 30+ hours of driving to go through my town. And on the way, he's also making stops in Indiana to see some friends as well. I live in a house with my boyfriend of just under a year, and there is not great guest accommodations. A guest would need to sleep on the futon on the porch if they wanted to. Also, I work at a fire department on like a 24-hour shift, and I'm working from Wednesday until Friday. Well, Rick wanted to come to town Wednesday evening, hang out Thursday, and then depart on early Friday. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And then the plan was for him to stay at my parents' house 10 minutes away because they have a larger home that has a lot more space for any kind of guest. Well, my boyfriend of just under 1 year told me ahead of time that he didn't love that I had a guy friend coming to visit, and he thought that it was super weird that he was going to stay with my parents. He said he knows he can't ask me to change who I am or get rid of friends, but it just feels weird and it makes him uncomfortable. Now, I've explained the full context of my friendship to him, and I want to be sensitive to his feelings, but I don't think it's reasonable to alter friendships I've had long before knowing him that are not inappropriate in the slightest. And he is actually fine with some of my male friends that live here and actively enjoys them, and at this point, he would even consider them a friend of his. I thought my boyfriend was accepting, although not excited about the plan, but now it's Thursday and it's causing a huge outburst again. My boyfriend then chose not to have dinner with my family and Rick, and instead chose to work on the house remodeling at a property that is a mile from where we live. And it's like, okay, fine, go ahead and do that. I get done with dinner at around 7:30, and I call immediately upon leaving, but I get no answer. I swing by the remodeled house and no one's there. So I think to myself, okay, maybe he's going to get food himself. But when I get back to our house, there is no sign of him. I then call and text him once an hour goes by. I then finally hear from him at 9:15 at night. He's at the remodel house and his phone has been on the charger while he went out to get food for himself. But I think it's complete garbage that he couldn't communicate that he would be home way later than normal. And he's also saying that he's going to stay at that house tonight. So am I really the jerk for having a male friend come visit me in this fashion? I asked my boyfriend if our roles were reversed. Would he have told his friends not to visit or had them stay in a hotel? But when I asked this, he provided no answer to these questions. Also, this is the first time he has decided to stay up at that house ever since the remodel began about 4 months ago. What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna echo what someone said in the comments section, but your boyfriend sounds incredibly immature and very insecure. Like seriously, this is clearly just a friend from an old job you did several years ago, and the fact that your boyfriend can't see that is really weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, and like honestly, you haven't done anything wrong, because in my opinion, you've done everything right to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible. My husband and his friends tricked me into believing that they got detained at the border, causing me to freak out in a way that honestly was just so distressing. But after I found out it was a prank, I'm honestly feeling so devastated, because right now I'm so upset that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm pregnant with my second child, and yesterday my husband spontaneously decided that he was going to cross the border with some friends to go shopping. He literally told me this 2 hours before he was leaving, but I just decided not to make a big deal out of it. I had some friends coming over for dinner, and I'm used to handling my toddler's solo most nights, although some are harder than others because I'm in my second trimester of pregnancy. Since I had some girls over, we were watching the new Superman movie, and my phone is usually silent, so after the movie, I picked up my phone to check on it, and I noticed I had missed calls from my husband and a couple missed calls from his friend. I then looked at a text message which said that my husband needed to be picked up from the border because apparently they were detaining him. Now, I was really genuinely worried because my husband is a citizen of our country now, but he is originally an immigrant, and he has had issues with his passport before, and the whole group of them had gotten pulled over by a border patrol because one of the other passengers in the car had an issue with his passport or his visa. Now, it was almost 12 o'clock at night, so admittedly, I wasn't thinking properly. I called my husband and the phone was ringing and he just wasn't answering. I then called the friend that notified me, but it was going straight to voicemail as well. I also tried to get a hold of that friend's wife, and then eventually just called everybody that I knew, but nobody was answering. I felt horrified because my phone is always on silent, and my husband needed me and I didn't come through. For a bit of context, I'm not somebody who drives very long distances due to some anxiety of the highway, and this is from a really bad accident my mom got into when I was a teenager. I don't even know where the border is, but at this point, I just started dressing up my toddler. I mean, I didn't even know what to do with her. Well, as I was finishing getting ready to leave, my husband called me and him and his idiot friends were all in the video smiling at me, because at this point, I found out that it was all a prank. I feel like at the time I wasn't processing everything, so I made light of it and I told them they were all idiots, and I told him not to come home. But as I processed the evening, I started to feel very angry and very hurt. I don't understand what's so funny about playing a joke like this on a pregnant person. The friend that made this joke has a pregnant wife himself. I was really irritated and I started texting my husband, and he basically blamed me for believing his friend, pointing out all the ways that it didn't make any sense, and then proceeded to upload a photo of him and his friends enjoying a milkshake when I was literally in panic mode the entire time I couldn't get a hold of him. I literally felt myself about to have a panic attack. He gets home at about 2 o'clock in the morning and tries to cuddle up with me, but at this point I am furious. Now, we had a family outing planned today, which I completely canceled because there's no way we were gonna wake up early enough to get ourselves prepared for that. Also, it was a trip that was only supposed to take supposedly a couple of hours, like 4 at most, ended up taking 8 hours altogether, which means I didn't get anything prepared. And because I made a whole big deal about it and contacted so many people, today I woke up to basically being laughed at, and I know that if I react, they're just gonna say it was a joke or something like that. I'm literally so upset, and I woke up this morning and I just started crying. But maybe I just don't know how to take a joke, but maybe it's the hormones as well. So honestly, am I overreacting here? Because at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated and very upset. Holy crap, this is not okay in my opinion. Okay, first of all, your husband is super toxic for doing this, and the fact that he played along with this, or if anything like orchestrated it, in my opinion is super messed up. Like, why would he do that to his pregnant wife? Like, what a weird way of like behaving altogether. Like, that really sucks in my opinion. And no, this is not one of those situations where you can't take a joke. This is not a joke. This is something that has happened to people, and I'm sure the original poster was freaking out thinking, oh my god, it's happening to my husband. Like, he really fits the bill for these idiots arresting people for illegitimate reasons. So no, this is not okay. This is very messed up, and in my opinion, this is completely over the line. Because this is not a prank that you should do to anybody, let alone your pregnant wife who was clearly worried sick. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for demanding my friend pay me fuel money after I had to drive 3 hours back to the hotel, all because he left some stuff there? Because right now he is freaking out on me, saying that he doesn't owe me a penny, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I live in East Yorkshire, England, and we went on a road trip to South Wales for a couple of days, which is a 5.5-hour drive from where I live. Now, this is a friend I have known for a very long time. He was actually supposed to drive and agreed to because I am not comfortable driving long distances like that, but he hurt his foot at the gym the day before, and I basically had no choice but to drive. Anyways, it was all fine. We ended up getting there and we had a good time, but the problem came when we left. My friend booked the hotel we stayed at, and he was the one who signed in and out. So over halfway home, 3 hours into driving, he realizes he left a bunch of his stuff at the hotel. His wallet, his house keys, and his own car keys. He then freaked out and begged me to go back. By the way, no one else would be in his house, and he needed his car to go to work on Monday. Now, of course, I was very frustrated by this. It messed up my own plans and meant adding 6 more hours of driving in total, which was completely exhausting. And keep in mind, this is driving in England, nothing like the nice open American roads. I probably did say some mean things in frustration, but I relented and I did it anyways. I drove back and we got his stuff, and after a horrible drive, we finally got home. I then realized that I had spent about $70 on fuel because of the extra 6 hours. I then told him that in no uncertain terms, I expect him to give me the money. To me, this is completely fair, but he disagreed. He couldn't believe I was even asking. He exclaimed out loud, "But that's what friends do." He then just shouted and argued and then stormed off. But I am not backing down. And at this point, mutual friends are now messaging me saying that I'm the jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because this is honestly so ridiculous. Oh my gosh, you have crappy friends. This guy literally added 6+ hours to your driving time, all because he forgot his crap at the hotel. Like at that point, you're absolutely going to be owing me that $70. Because it's either that or trust me, we will probably not be very close friends after that. And you know what? You're completely within your rights to demand that. That is 100% reasonable, and the fact that he's freaking out is completely stupid. So no, you're not the jerk because your friend absolutely owes you. An entitled Karen allows her kid to climb all over me while I'm in my wheelchair, and despite the fact that I demanded she get her kid off of me, she still literally encouraged it to happen, saying there was nothing wrong with it and that I was overreacting. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened about a month ago, and honestly, I am still in shock. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I have a spinal condition that requires me to use a wheelchair pretty much full time. It's not rented or borrowed, it's mine. It's fitted for me, and it costs more than my car. Now, just to set the scene, I was flying home after visiting family, and I got to the airport early. I was sitting near the gate with my headphones in, sipping on a drink, just minding my own business. But suddenly, I feel my chair jolt backwards a little bit. I look over my shoulder and there's a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, trying to climb into my lap. I then gently stop him and I say that it's not something he can play on. Well, not even 10 seconds later, his mom appears and immediately tells me to not be rude, that he's just playing. Now, I was honestly stunned for a second. Then I calmly told her that this is my wheelchair, a medical device, not a ride. But when I say this, she laughs at me. Then she says, "Oh, you're just sitting there. What's the harm anyways? It's like a stroller, right?" But it's like, no, it's not. I explain again more firmly that it's not safe and wildly inappropriate to let her child try to climb on me. She rolls her eyes and says people are so uptight these days. Now, security at the gate had seen what had happened and came over to check in. They asked if I wanted to report it, but honestly, I just wanted to board early and be done with it. As they were walking me to the pre-boarding area, I could still hear her saying to her kid that some people fake being disabled for attention and that you shouldn't be fooled. And it's like, girl, if I wanted attention, I would get it by standing up and doing a backflip, but I literally can't. It honestly makes me wonder what's wrong with people like this because this was so wildly inappropriate. Oh man, the original poster is a better person than me because I would have 100% reported them. Like seriously, the second that kid started climbing on me and she started justifying it, that would be the moment I report them and just absolutely take the time to make sure she gets punished for that. Because the way she was acting was super entitled and incredibly inappropriate, and you definitely did not deserve that. Am I the jerk for wanting to leave my wife after she cheated during a dark phase in our marriage? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife and I have been married for about 3 years and been together overall for about 9. Last year, we went through something really painful. We had a Maltese dog that meant the world to me, and it originally belonged to my mom, who passed away a few years ago. The dog was energetic and super fast, and we always made sure to be careful with open doors. One day, my wife accidentally left the door open for just a second, and the dog bolted out. It ran into the street, and it was unfortunately hit by a car. It was a really traumatic thing for us to go through. My wife was constantly crying, blaming herself, apologizing over and over again. I told her I didn't blame her, but I also admitted I needed some mental space and therapy to avoid building up resentment. During this phase, I started staying over at a hotel more often just to clear my head. I did 6 sessions of online therapy over 3 months, and I genuinely felt like I came out of it healed and ready to move forward with her. But right towards the end of that healing phase, she confessed that she had a one-night stand with a coworker a few nights prior. She said that she had been in a dark place for months, and when her coworker praised and complimented her, she finally just caved. She broke down crying, saying that she'd do anything to make things right, quit her job, go to counseling, literally anything. She was crying so much, I've honestly never seen her cry like this ever. I was really shocked and I told her to leave me alone. I then confided in my brother and sister, and they both were surprisingly understanding of her. They said I had emotionally abandoned her during the hardest time in her life, and maybe this was her way of latching onto something that made her feel seen. They said I shouldn't have stayed over at a hotel that often, and that family should go through struggles together. They encouraged me to consider consider couples counseling before making any decisions. But here's the thing, I don't think I can move past this. I never blamed her for the dog. I gave myself space, I sought help, and I came back ready to rebuild. But now this betrayal has opened up a different kind of pain. I just don't know if I can trust her ever again. My wife is trying anything for reconciliation. She even said I can sleep with anyone or do anything that I want. But it's not about that. It's just that I've lost all love and respect for her entirely. So am I the jerk for not wanting to try and save this? Because right now I really am not sure what to do. Dude, okay, first off, your sister and brother are complete idiots. Who in their right mind would be like, I can't believe you're leaving her over this. She was emotionally abandoned. This was the only way she could be seen. And it's like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. So cheating is the only way she could be seen. Not talking it through or talking with their husband or I don't know, like going for a walk or getting therapy. Yeah, cheating's the only way she could have figured things out. Like, holy crap, what is happening right now? That is a terrible justification. And your siblings are morons for trying to justify this cheating. Look, I totally understand that people grieve things in different ways. And sure, personally, I do find it kind of weird that you stayed at a hotel and like you wouldn't even like stay around her or something like that. But never in a million years would any of your behavior justify what she did. Like, that is crazy in my opinion. I don't care what kind of dark place you go to. There's no justification for this. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all for the decision you're making, because what your wife did is completely unacceptable and I just don't think there's any justifying it. My entitled roommate is one of the worst people I've had to deal with in a long time, because after she took my other roommate's charger for over 4 hours and refused to give it back, we realized that this lady was completely out of her mind, making us regret ever allowing her to live with us in the first place. Here's how it happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I never imagined that I would be posting here. I'm a longtime lurker on this subreddit and rarely meet such entitled individuals. This happened about a week ago to my housemate, a lovely girl, and I witnessed everything as it went down. I'm gonna refer to my nice housemate as Anna, who is a 21-year-old female, and the perpetrator housemate as Brittany. Now, Brittany, who's a 20-year-old female, is our newest housemate and has only been here for 2 months so far. We all had been nice and welcoming to her, but clearly that made her think that we're some kind of jerk doormats who won't stand up to her garbage. This time, she needed a phone charger, so she knocked on Anna's door and asked if she could borrow hers. Now, Anna was heading out, so she gave Brittany her charger and said that she can have it for the duration of her absence. Well, Anna returned like 4 hours later. I had opened the toilet door about to come out when I saw Anna knocking on Brittany's door and asking nicely, by the way, if she can have her charger back. I didn't want to miss this, so I was standing in the doorway at an angle that Brittany would not see me, but I would be able to see Anna speaking to her. Brittany opened her door, looked at Anna square in her face, and dropped a resounding no. Now, I've had issues with Brittany before, and I have so many stories about her shenanigans, but I was truly shocked at this. Like, seriously, the audacity of this lady. Anna then said, "It's my charger. You've had it for all that time I was gone. I need it now that my phone's dead." But Brittany refused again, saying that she wasn't given enough time and she still needed it, going as far as to blame the charger, saying it's not my fault that it's slow. At this point, Anna is as mad as she is confused, and she said she wants her charger back right this second. And I swear to you, I hear Brittany say the word no about 3 more times before I fully emerged from the bathroom door and walked towards Anna. As soon as Brittany heard footsteps, she slammed the door shut and screamed, "I'm getting the charger, okay?" She opened her door once again and basically threw the charger at Anna and slammed the door shut again. Me and Anna then exchanged the most baffled, bewildered looks because we were just completely flabbergasted. Now, Brittany didn't know that I had heard everything, so she felt comfortable later on to try and twist the whole narrative and directly label Anna as a mean girl and herself as a victim to me. The weirdo ambushed me in the kitchen that night to get me on her side, and I, of course, was having none of it, but that's another story in and of itself. She's unfortunately still here, obviously, so the drama is far from over. A truly bizarre, entitled individual with the worst case of victim mentality I've ever seen, but at least we now know to never help her out with anything ever again. Dude, imagine being so weird that you literally try to sit there and be like, 4 hours isn't enough. I need this charger for longer. Like, if your phone is not fully charged after 4 hours, then you might have something wrong with your phone and you might need to get something new. Like, that's just really weird. And it's so funny that she was giving Anna the runaround, because I'm fairly convinced she probably would have like gone along with this for as long as possible unless you had been there to like step up and just be present, because she clearly sees you as like some kind of way of making Anna look bad, despite the fact that Anna didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, this is a weird roommate, and hopefully stuff like this kind of slows down and she eventually moves out or something like that, because living with someone like this sounds like an absolute living nightmare. Today, I messed up by thinking a girl was flirting with me, when in reality, she was trying to set me up to sell me insurance. And I now feel really dumb and incredibly stupid. And anytime I think about this situation, I can't help but die inside just a little bit more. Here's how it went down. So a few weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop just minding my own business when this girl suddenly approached me. She was super friendly, asked if she could sit at my table as it was a crowded place, and we ended up talking for a while. She was laughing at my jokes, complimented my watch, even said something like, "You have a really calm energy, it's really refreshing." And my brain's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is how Netflix romances begin. We exchanged numbers, or rather, she took mine and said she'd love to catch up again soon. The next day, she texted me, "Hey, so nice chatting yesterday. Let's connect sometime this week." And at this point, I'm already planning what shirt I'll wear. We set up a catch-up at a quiet, loungy place, and I show up slightly overdressed. And she's already seated with a laptop, a folder, and what I now realize was a not flirty smile. It was a sales smile. She then starts the conversation by saying, "So I don't know if you've ever considered a long-term investment plan that also protects your loved ones, but let's talk a little." And when she said this, I died a little inside. I sat there for 40 minutes while she pitched me life insurance like I was some kind of 50-year-old family man with mortgage anxiety. The compliments, oh, it was just rapport building. The number exchange was a lead capture. And the refreshing calm energy she claimed was probably code for, oh, this guy looks too polite to leave mid-pitch. To make it worse though, I nodded through the whole thing like I was still trying to impress her. And honestly, whenever I think about this situation, I feel incredibly stupid. Oh my gosh, this is so messed up. That was deeply manipulative. And a lot of people in the comments basically said that on this post, where it's like, yeah, this is like completely screwed up. Because what she was doing was 100% flirting, at least in my opinion. Like, she's sitting down and she's like, "Oh, I like your watch. You're so funny. You have a calm and refreshing energy. Let's meet up sometime." Like, that really does sound like someone who met you suddenly and said, "Hey, let's meet up and get to know each other more." Like, oh, I don't know, a date or something like that. So you did everything right. You literally showed up trying to look nice and trying to spend time with this lady, but for her to turn around and be like, "Okay, just kidding, I'm a salesperson, let's get started." Like, that is some super scumbag behavior if you ask me. So honestly, I don't think this is that much of a mess up, because the way she was going about doing this was incredibly flirty off the bat. And I seriously don't think this is your fault at all, because this really was incredibly sketchy. My psycho coworker literally gets revenge in a way that I never expected, putting one of my other coworkers in his place who just so happened to cross him at the worst time possible, resulting in one of the most shocking displays of revenge I've probably seen in a long time. Here's how it all went down. So to start things out, I work at remote mining, which attracts many strange and interesting characters, and surprisingly, I am the normal one amongst all of them. One construction site I worked on last year was coming to the end, which meant a lot of the temporary facilities were being pulled out to be installed at a new site, resulting in a lack of clothing, washing, and drying facilities. Now, you work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks straight, and in a perfect world, you put the clothes in the washing machine after work, have dinner, transfer the finished clothing into the dryer, then have a couple of beers before removing the dry clothing before heading off to get some sleep. The only problem is that the washing part takes about 25 minutes and the drying part takes about 90, resulting in a backlog of wet clothing waiting for some Westinghouse warmth. The system is compounded by some users having a few too many beers and forgetting to remove their dry clothing or just going to bed. So the unofficial protocol is to transfer dried clothing to the bench to free up the machine for your own clothing. But sometimes people get impatient and they transfer almost but not quite dry clothing to the bench. And this is certainly annoying, but it is what it is. One evening before flyout day, when washing facilities are in higher demand, I'm chilling in the laundry with only a handful of minutes left on my dryer when one of the supervisors walks in. He is a jerk with anger issues who I only know by reputation, but he is about to be the hero of this story. Supervisor Richard opens the dryer his clothing's in and looks really confused. Those aren't his clothes. His clothes are in a wet pile on the bench. Some entitled idiot had removed his still dripping wet clothing to put their own in, and he was incredibly angry when he saw this. But surprisingly, he just kind of walked out. Well, a few minutes later, I'm cleaning out my clothing out of my now finished dryer when he storms back in, striding straight up to the dryer containing the clothing that is not his. He then tears open 2 Mars bars that he just bought from the camp shop, breaks them in half, tosses them into the dryer, closes the door, and then sets the timer for 90 minutes on high heat. I gesture to him my now empty dryer, gather all of my things, and then I leave as he starts gathering up his clothing. Now, I did quietly ask around when I flew back in, but nobody had heard of it. But that's not a surprise with a workplace of a couple of thousand people, many of which were finishing up every week. So the lesson of this story is that you really should be careful with who you mess with, because there's always a bigger jerk around the corner who's waiting to ruin your day. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine watching that happen. Like, first of all, this guy clearly lives up to his reputation. He sees his clothing dripping wet on the bench and he's like, oh, I'm not gonna stand for this. I'm gonna get get back at this guy in a way he'll never forget. And his way of getting back is like ruining the clothing and making them wash it probably multiple times. And you know for a fact that that chocolate's gonna be baked into that clothing forever. That is never getting out of that. Like he put it on the highest setting for 90 minutes. That's gonna get all over the place. It might even like ruin the dryer. So honestly, I find this so hilarious. I know if this was me, I would be mildly annoyed, but I would just wait my turn. But this guy absolutely saw red and said, oh no, I'm gonna punish this guy for messing with me. Which in my opinion is really messed up, but also incredibly hilarious. An entitled jerk in line at Disney gets angry with me after I let a disabled family go ahead of him, saying that this isn't equal treatment and that he should go next as well. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's idiotic attitude. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is a story from my time working at a very popular theme park in Florida. This situation happened when I worked in attractions. One day during a moderately busy period, I was the Fast Pass line greeter. I noticed a man pacing from the Fast Pass machines to the entry lines a few times. I believe he was checking the time display at the top. If guests already had a Fast Pass for one ride, there was a certain time they would have to wait before obtaining another one, even if it was for another ride. The man seemed annoyed, but he didn't say anything. Well, a family walked up and presented a Disability Access Service Pass. This pass was given to people with different disabilities that made waiting in long lines incredibly difficult. Most allowed access to the Fast Pass lane, while a few allowed direct access onto the ride. This particular family was allowed to enter into the Fast Pass line, which had a much shorter wait than the standby line. Well, the man witnessed this interaction and waved me over to the Fast Pass machines. I asked my coworker, the single ride greeter, to look after my position while I assisted the man. He then asked about this pass and why it allowed the family such easy access to the Fast Pass line. In fact, he wanted to know where he could get one. So, without mentioning the family's personal business, I explained what a disability pass was. But when I did, this man became incredibly angry. He said to me, well, I want to be let into the Fast Pass line as well. I asked him, well, do you have a Fast Pass? And he said to me, well, I can't get one yet, but I don't think it's fair that they could just walk in. I tried to explain that they have a disability pass, but he actually said to me, so because I'm not disabled, I don't get equal treatment? I paid a lot to be here. Why is it fair that they get to skip the line and I can't? Now, very rarely am I actually stunned into silence, but I simply couldn't believe that he was serious. I couldn't believe that he actually thought that way. I then just kind of stared at him for probably a full minute until he spoke up again. He looked at me and said, well, and I just responded back by saying, life isn't fair, sir. You can't enter that line without a Fast Pass. I apologize. I then just walked away before he could say anything else, because seriously, I was blown away that he actually said this to me. Oh man, talk about being completely obtuse and so out of touch. This man literally said, oh, they get special treatment because they're disabled? And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Do you hear what you just said? Because in case anyone's wondering, yeah, they should get special treatment. If they're disabled, that's absolutely what they deserve. They're entitled to that. There are literally laws outlining this kind of thing. Like, are you being serious right now? Do you also get pissed off when you can't park at the front of the grocery store because all these disabled people are taking the best spots? Like, dude, what's going on right now? This is crazy. So yeah, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be stunned as well. Because if someone actually said that to me, I would be stunned to say the least. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance is burning me out because he is literally always struggling financially, especially after he suddenly quit his job right after we got engaged. Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that we've been together for 4 years. He has struggled financially pretty much always, and I have not. I've worked my butt off to be financially stable, and it's important to me that I stay that way. I encouraged him to find a stable job, and he did and was finally getting ahead financially. But after more than a year of his financial stability, we decided to move in together and he proposed. Shortly after the proposal, he unexpectedly just quit his job. I know he was burnt out and the work environment wasn't great, but it was a steady income. It was a big shock to say the least, but I tried to be supportive since I knew he was stressed to the max, and that's what partners do after all. He told me that he would at least find a side gig in the next few months while he worked on building his own business, and that at least slowed down my stress for the time being. Well, it's been 5 months now and he still hasn't found anything to bring in income, but he is working on building a business. Now, the business is not likely to bring in any income for at least several more months, and I'm not sure if it will at all because I haven't seen any progress. I do try to ask him about it, but he's still in the building phase and hasn't tried to find clients who will need the work he provides yet since he just isn't ready. I think it's a good business idea, but I worry about the actual execution. Meanwhile, he has debts he is responsible for and has burned through his money. I have loaned him some, and yet the payback date has come and gone. He asked me to help cover his car payment and gas since he uses the car to help care for my kids kids. I told him I was uncomfortable with that, and it turned into a multi-day argument. He's now asked me to cover his debts while he works on his business and reframes it as me investing in him because we are building a partnership together. And trust me, I get that, but what he's asking for feels indefinite to me. And when I try to put an end date to it, conversations turn vague, and I'm left feeling like I don't believe in him and I'm just unwilling to support him. And maybe I am unwilling to support him this way financially, and that's why I'm feeling so burnt out. I want to be a supportive partner, but I feel like I'm possibly being taken advantage of. I can also see the side where sometimes things are tough, but partners have to support each other through sickness, health, rich and poor. I mean, that does make sense, right? I'm having a hard time because he is able-bodied and capable of bringing in income. I haven't seen any urgency or work towards at least doing something in the interim while he tries to build up his company, and that's what I need to see. When I bring this up, he always says he's working on something for his business, for a couple of weeks until he can get the next step going, almost like he doesn't have time for a side job. And I guess I feel like having money to pay current expenses is more important immediately, and he should work on building his business on the side of that rather than the other way around. I'm able to pay all the expenses, but it's making me feel financially claustrophobic, if that even makes any sense. I have goals that I have to sideline since I have his extra expenses at the moment. When I tell him I'm at capacity and I can't cover his expenses, I somehow end up feeling like I'm unsupportive and that I don't believe in him, which isn't the case. I just want him to cover his own life. He tells me everything is always mine or his, and we don't think of everything together. So seriously, what's the line between being supportive and being taken advantage of? What's the line between able to bring in income and willing to bring in income? I feel like he sees my income as sufficient for our life, so we're fine, but honestly, I'm overworked and overwhelmed, and I would like to have some breathing room where I could take a small step back at work. But when I talk about this, he says he will just work until he's 90 then, and it honestly just feels very unproductive, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest, it really does seem like he's taking advantage of you. Like, this guy literally locked you down and got married to you and then suddenly just quits his job. And now he's like, oh, I need all this money for my business, while never committing to getting a job to try and fund that business. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Why should you be the one person loaning out money to him for a business that isn't even starting up? Like, it seems like he almost found you on purpose so that you can basically bankroll his life and he can do whatever he wants with this business that clearly is going nowhere. So no, you're not unreasonable for being burnt out over this, because I think I would definitely be burned out over this. You literally want to break, and this guy's like, well, I'll just work until I'm 90. And it's like, oh, okay, buddy, but what are we going to do between now and then? Because what he's asking for, in my opinion, is completely irrational and kind of crazy, which I'm willing to guess is not what you signed up for in the slightest. An entitled Karen made me cry at work as I was literally just trying to do my job as a waitress, as she treated me lower than dirt in a way that I've never been treated before in my life. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I'm a full-time nursing student and a part-time waitress. It's not glamorous, but it's how I afford tuition, rent, gas, and cheap coffee to keep from passing out between class and my other shifts. I'm tired, I'm always broke, and I'm trying my best. This morning I had a Sunday brunch shift, which is essentially the Hunger Games in apron form. I'm already running on 4 hours of sleep and half a granola bar. But things go from bad to worse when the entitled Karen of this story walks in. She's in her mid-50s with a Chanel bag and gives off an energy that could freeze boiling water. I greet her with my usual, hi, welcome in, how are you today? But it's here that she immediately cuts me off. Coffee, black, don't talk to me like we're friends. So I think to myself, okay, got it. She's one of those people. I bring the coffee and she starts picking me apart like I'm a character flaw. This table's crooked, my toast is too hard. Why are your shoes dirty? Then came the line that absolutely broke me. After I brought her eggs for the third time because the first two weren't sunny enough, she looks at me dead in the eyes and says, is this really the best you can do? No wonder you're a waitress. My hands were literally shaking. I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there frozen, blinking fast to keep the tears in. And then she smiled. Not in a kind way like she was satisfied, but it was almost like she had won. When she was done, she scribbled $0 on the tip line, stared at me one last time, and walked out like she hadn't just kicked someone while they were down. Now, what did my manager do? Well, they just shrugged and said, some customers are difficult, let it go. But I couldn't, not really. I went into the walk-in freezer and I cried like someone had flipped a switch. Quiet, ugly sobs while frozen peas dug into my back. What she doesn't know is that I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning last night, that I studied during my 10-minute break, and that I'm trying. That this isn't just a job, it's survival. And the worst part about it is that I still had to smile to take the next table like nothing happened. So to that woman, I will say that you didn't break me, but you made today a whole lot harder than it needed to be. And to the older man at table 9 who saw my red eyes and left a $10 tip with the words "hang in there," you will never know how much that meant to me. This job isn't easy. Life isn't easy. But I'm still here and I'm still trying, even if some entitled Karen refuses to tip me. Okay, first of all, I'm so sorry that this idiot treated you like that, but oh my gosh, don't even think about that for a second. This lady is miserable. You would never want to trade places with her because I guarantee you, she lives a miserable, cold life with no love or anybody who cares about her. In my opinion, the way you treat service workers is a direct reflection of who you are on the inside. And this Karen is straight up rotten, like rotten to the core. She is not a good person. And it's so funny to me that she's like, "Oh, no wonder you're a waitress." As if being a waitress makes you less of a person. Like, my God, what an idiot. The fact that she thinks she can treat you like that and be like, "You're below me because you're a waitress," that's proof in and of itself that she's a bad person, because she clearly expects some kind of service, but she wants you to be miserable in the process. So seriously, don't think about this for a second. This lady is out of her mind crazy, and I guarantee you that she is incredibly unhappy in her miserable, weird life, because chances are she has nobody left in her life because she's burned every bridge you could possibly think of. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that it's not our responsibility to somehow be responsible for all the bills and their debt as well? Because right now she's saying that because we live in her house, it is somehow still our responsibility as well. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I recently had a fight with my mom because my sister called out of work out of exhaustion. She works at a restaurant that overworks and mistreats her. I recently got out of a place like that again as well because it started to affect my own mental health. Well, my mom got mad at her because my sister and I have been helping pay most house expenses, and calling out is a loss of money. She says that we can't keep leaving jobs no matter the environment because there are things that have to get paid for. She currently doesn't have a job, and my stepfather is not very good at managing money, so we are behind on various payments and they are in terrible debt. Well, I got upset at her for getting upset at my sister because she has been putting up with a lot for something that I feel is not our responsibility or faults. She got upset saying that we live in the house, so of course we are responsible. The back and forth continued, with her bringing up irrelevant things, like if I lived with my grandma, she wouldn't accept this behavior. We are close to losing our house, and this stress has been getting to me for a long time. I haven't even been able to get my own place because I put hundreds of dollars a month into this place. I even pay half of my family bills, and things are still tight. They even want me to take out a loan to help pay for bills that are behind, and ask my sister to sell signed merchandise just to pay things off, even though they know that means a lot to her. I feel like I should be grateful to have a place to live in, and that complaining about everything that I have to pay for is entitled, but my other sister, who wasn't raised with me, disagrees, saying that the situation is unfair and that my parents are acting unfairly. So seriously, am I the jerk for getting mad at my mom about our situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this is some crazy crap. Why on earth are you responsible for any of their debts? Just because you live there doesn't mean you're somehow responsible. Like, if anything, they only want you there so they can milk you of more money. They're just trying to siphon as much money out of you and squeeze you for every drop. And that is literally not fair. Like, you guys don't deserve this. And from the sounds of it, the original poster literally said that the stepdad makes $100,000 a year. And it's like, buddy, how on earth are you still not paying off your own debt when you're making 6 figures a year, man? Like, what's going on? So no, there's no reason for you to be treated this way. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would start knocking on grandma's door and being like, "Look, can I please get into your place for like 6 months so that I can save up and find my own place to live?" Like, this is some crazy behavior, because the way your mom is treating you is not fair and you don't deserve that in the slightest. An entitled rich jerk throws a temper tantrum after I walk off a job because of the way he was talking to me, resulting in this idiot saying he's gonna go to corporate just to try and get me fired. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I work in pest control, and recently I was at a customer's property doing their monthly service. These customers are a married couple in their late 60s or mid 70s, and they seem to be fairly wealthy. I had done their service 2 times prior, as this particular account was signed up and serviced by another colleague who ended up being forced to resign from the company, so my boss gave the account to me. They have 2 separate properties that I service. One property is a large industrial shop type building where they store a bunch of luxury vehicles and a high-end RV, whereas the second property is their personal residence. Now, these customers are very difficult to work with. They're never available when you call and try to schedule their monthly service. They're literally always out of town, always on vacations, and both have an extremely pretentious way about them, and they are just the embodiment of rich, white, and entitled. It's easy to tell that these people have never struggled financially substantially in their lives and think that they're better than you and that you should feel honored to be in their presence. Anyways, I arrive at the shop first and the husband is there because it's all gated in and he needs to be there to give me access to the property and the shop. Well, this guy's the most unfriendly, abrasive person I've ever encountered in my life. I finish up the service and I tell the guy everything is good and I'm heading over to his home now. He then says, "Are you gonna spray?" And for reference, the plan they have with us includes 2 sprays per year in which we spray the exterior of the home and buildings with a pesticide that keeps ants and general insect pests away for a while. I tell him no, I sprayed last service, which I absolutely did. I then tell him there's no need to spray for this month and I explain to him that he only gets 2 sprays per year with his plan. I then advised him that I could do a spray next service, but he didn't like that. He then states, "Well, Aaron, who was the previous technician who signed up the account, sprayed every single service." But I said that Aaron was also basically fired from the company and he should not have been doing that. The guy then says, "Well, I don't think we're getting what we're paying for." And by the way, this guy pays $100 a month to have his large home and large shop serviced, and he was getting free sprays on top of that every month for who knows how long. $100 a month is what I would charge for a small cafe or a restaurant, and this guy's already paying way less than what he should be. He then says he's going to call the head office just to complain. At this point, I don't feel like arguing with this guy, and I'm just done dealing with the account altogether, so I just tell him flat out, if he doesn't like our service, he can go somewhere else. And when I say that, he's now incredibly pissed off. He says to me, "Oh really? So you just don't give a crap?" I try to stay professional, and I tell him that he seems to have a personal issue with us now that Aaron is not doing his service anymore. I tell him there's nothing further that I can do for him. He then says he's going to call the office, and I say, "Okay, that's fine." And I ask him if he still wants his home service done today. He then asks me, "Have I already paid for it?" And I say yes, as his wife prepays for the year. He then says to me that you better get your butt over there right there and then. He was so angry, and it's like, oh my gosh, absolutely not. So I tell him, "Okay, we're done here, you're on your own." And I calmly walk to my truck and I leave. Once I'm off the property, I advise my supervisor of the situation, and then I start documenting the interaction in the service report. While I'm doing the service report, this idiot has the nerve to actually call me and ask if I'm going to his house to do the service. But I say to him straight up that no, I'm not going to be spoken to that way or be ordered around like a dog. I tell him to cancel his contract, get a refund, and find someone else. I even gave him the name of our competitor that he could call. His final words to me were to say, "You think you're the boss? You can kiss my butt, you idiot." And then he promptly hangs up like the entitled man baby that he is. I mean, real mature, pal. Afterwards, his wife contacts our branch office and advises the customer service reps that she wants to speak with both managers and that her husband is going to go to social media about this grave injustice. My supervisor ended up speaking with his wife on the phone, and my supervisor told me after that he could hear the husband throwing a temper tantrum in the background because apparently if I come back to his property, I'm gonna be arrested. So I'm truly glad that I never have to deal with these entitled morons ever again, because seriously, good riddance, especially if you're gonna talk to me or my coworkers in that manner. Okay, I love what the original poster did because this is fantastic. You stood up for yourself against some idiot who thought they could boss you around, because this couple was just completely out of their mind. Like, I don't care how old or how rich you are, you're not gonna talk to someone like that and expect any kind of service. It's also nice to see that your supervisor basically had your back as well, because I've worked in businesses before where the supervisor throws you under the bus if you in any way disagree or upset a customer. That's one of the worst feelings on the planet, and I'm so glad you didn't run into that. So yeah, this guy was a complete jerk and he deserved to get shut down in the way that he did. Am I the jerk for throwing away a gift I got for my boyfriend after he literally made fun of it in front of all of his friends one night when we were drinking? Because right now I'm heartbroken and I seriously am so crushed. Here's what's going on. So me and my boyfriend have been dating for about 6 months. A little while ago for his birthday, I made him a small gift. It was a handmade mini scrapbook with some photos, some tickets from stuff that we did together, personal notes, etc. I spent a decent amount of time on it because I wanted to do something thoughtful instead of just buying something generic. When I gave it to him, he was sweet about it and he said that he loved it and put it on his shelf, and I thought that was that. But then a few days later, we were hanging out and drinking with some of his friends, and the topic of his gifts came up. My boyfriend kind of laughed and described mine as middle school relationship core, and his friends actually started laughing at me. He wasn't outright mocking me, but the way he kept describing it all and the contents like it was something childish made me feel really embarrassed. And while I smiled and laughed along, on the inside I felt kind of crushed. I didn't say anything then, but when I got home, I cried. Afterwards, I quietly took it and I threw it all away. I know that might sound petty, but I was in my feelings, and it just felt like a joke seeing it now. Definitely not something that was sweet. Like I was the only one taking it seriously. I know that he doesn't really keep anything sentimental. He keeps his place clean and decorations to a minimum, so maybe I should have just gotten him something practical for his birthday instead of making something he had no use for. Well, yesterday he noticed that it was gone and actually asked me where it went, so I told him I threw it out, and when I explained why, he told me that I was being dramatic. He said it was just a stupid joke, that I always take things too personally, and that if anything, I had overreacted instead of just telling him before. So now I feel kind of dumb. I know he didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but it still really stung, and I'm now wondering if I'm the jerk for taking it so personally and escalating by throwing the thing away because right now he feels like the bad guy. What should I do? Oh man, this is some really messed up stuff if you ask me. Like you took the time to get a scrapbook together full of photos and stuff that was really important to the both of you, and he just literally sat there and mocked it in front of all of his friends. Like that is literally super toxic and so embarrassing. And I don't know about you, but like embarrassing your partner like that is just so weird. I can understand joking around and having that dynamic in public, but to literally go out of your way to humiliate your girlfriend like that is just so strange. She did something kind for you and you're just sitting there like, oh yeah, this is some middle school relationship core. Like dude, why would you do that? That's so messed up. And if I'm being completely honest, I think throwing it away was way overboard. Like if anything, maybe take it away from him and put it somewhere else, just to try and get the point across that what he said was messed up. But I think in the end, the point still matters that yeah, what he said was really insulting. Because in my opinion, someone who's willing to make fun of you like that in front of their friends is honestly someone who, in my opinion, is throwing up a lot of red flags. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all for throwing that stuff away. And I'm just not buying the fact that he's like, oh yeah, well we were tipsy, I didn't mean it, you're just being over dramatic. Like that just doesn't stand in my opinion, and I think that's like super weird. Because what he did was super embarrassing and absolutely unacceptable, and you did not deserve that in the slightest. My toxic, entitled coworker freaks out on me in a way I never expected after I tried to help him out by taking over some of his tables at our restaurant that he couldn't serve in a timely manner. He even went as far as taking the tips off of the tables that I helped him with, despite the fact that I literally did all the work for him, resulting in one of the biggest meltdowns I've ever seen in my life. Here's how it happened. Okay, so today was a really busy night, and on top of that, one of our coworkers got sick just before the evening shift started. That means that we were understaffed. Now, one of my coworkers had tables inside and also outside on the street. While I had just relatively small and easy to handle sections inside the restaurant, my coworker was so busy outside that he wasn't able to properly handle his tables inside. For the first table in his section, I had to do everything. I took the orders, I brought the drinks, the food, I talked with the guests, and I brought the refill, and then I even had to clean the whole dishes. And all this time, my coworker was nowhere to be seen. But he wanted to keep that table under his name, so I gave him the receipt copy once I went to cash the table in. At the end, I even had to clean the table, while my coworker did nothing but ended up taking the tip for himself. Like this guy even went to complain later that I went to cash in on his table. So I straight up told him that if he wasn't able to handle his whole section, that he could just give me his tables inside and he could do the ones out on the street. Well, he denied my request in a bit of a rude manner and claimed that he could still manage this. Other people came to seat in that section and he again just wasn't present. But at this point, I had had enough of this. Why on earth should I do everything when he's just gonna take the tips at the end of it? So I put the new tables on my name. And when I did this, he went nuts and started screaming at me that I should leave his tables alone, to which I reminded him that nobody was there and the boss wouldn't like the tables to wait 20 minutes just to order a drink. Later in the night, a couple arrives and wants to sit on the street. So I clean the table, I bring the menu, and once again, I take the order. He then comes up to me and says to me, oh, just do the whole street yourself now. But here's the thing, I actually didn't even want to take that table for myself. I just wanted to help out a little. He goes inside and starts to make another big drama, complaining loudly about me in front of the boss and our colleagues. At the end of it, I had to do everything by myself outside on the street because he just didn't want it anymore. And I personally find this behavior wrong. It was busy, we were missing staff, and he just wants to insist doing everything just by himself. That would greatly slow down service and clients would start complaining. He even claimed that I should at least inform him when I take the orders from his tables, but I just don't find that right. He should have given given me half of his section already at the start, since he was clearly unable to manage all of this. Plus, our first and only priority is to make sure the guests are satisfied. Now, I was expecting my manager to defend me, but he got quite shy over the situation. And instead, he was telling him things like, we are a team and we help each other out. Look, we are understaffed and stuff like that. But he never told him in clear words that he was totally in the wrong. So honestly, what do you guys think about all of this? Because right now I'm still very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I want to echo what someone already said in the comments section, but your manager is spineless. This absolutely should have been addressed. This guy cannot handle all those tables and was acting like an idiot the entire time. You were literally just trying to help him out. And this guy tries to be like, I can handle it myself. What are you doing? And that's not fair because you literally were just trying to be a team player. And this guy has the audacity to come around and be like, oh, this is your fault. So next time, if he ever does try to pull that crap, I would just let him burn to the ground. I would refuse to help him out. And when he does complain about it, because you know he will, just kindly remind him the last time you tried to help him out and he bit your head off. Because yeah, this is inappropriate behavior. This guy's getting pissed off because he can't handle all the orders in front of him, but somehow this is your fault for trying to help out. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. If I was waiting tables again and I had coworkers willing to help me out because I literally couldn't handle all the tables in front of me, I would be high-fiving them and be like, oh yeah, take the tips, take the tables, I really appreciate it. Because to do otherwise is so ungrateful. He's literally burned a bridge with the original poster for them ever helping him out again. And honestly, that's the way it should be, because his behavior is awful and it absolutely is not okay. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got fired from my serving job at a restaurant I just started at, literally after my 4th training shift. And despite the fact that my trainer literally did nothing to train me on the job, and instead decided to chat with her friends the entire time, I was still reprimanded and written up for not doing my job right, leaving me wondering if I could have done a single thing differently. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I have no serving experience. I told the manager this in our interview, and she said that was a good thing, because some people with serving experience do things the way their old job did it. Anyways, I sent my availability for the next 2 weeks, and then I received the message. It said the following: as we approach our busiest season of the year, it's crucial that all of our team members are fully up to speed. Unfortunately, the progress observed during your training shifts hasn't aligned with our expectations. Despite the guidance provided across multiple training days, key information and procedures were not consistently retained and applied in subsequent shifts. This feedback has been shared by both our management and team members who worked alongside you. Given the demands of our upcoming season, we are unable to extend additional training time and believe it's best that we part ways at this point. Now, mind you, the first 2 training shifts, the trainer was chit-chatting half the time with the same manager and bartender, so I'm not sure exactly what they wanted me to do during this. Now, my 3rd shift, I thought I did pretty well. At least that's what the table said. On my 4th shift, the trainer called me lazy for not writing one table's order. I know she doesn't do it herself, but she's been there a long time. I was using the bathroom and she knew this. I was practicing the menu, and I did ask the trainer last time if she could send me pictures of the point of sale system so that I could practice using the names on there to write as I'm taking people's orders. But I also was practicing the point of sale system and they told me I was doing a good job. So I'm not sure if picking up fast enough was the real reason, but it just kinda hurts. But unfortunately, I was kind of expecting this after not being on the schedule for 2 weeks. And I saw that they hired someone else during those 2 weeks and they got finished with training after just 3 shifts. I genuinely enjoyed the job, but at this point, I'm not sure if I could continue serving further if this is how they're gonna view me. What should I do? Okay, honestly, someone in the comment section said it best, but the fact that the first 2 training sessions are just the trainer not doing their job, like that for me really does explain that yeah, this place sucks and they don't care about whether or not you're gonna do good. If anything, it's probably one big click and they're just gonna try and be like, oh, how does their personality gel with the rest of us? And it's like, dude, do you want me to do a good job or do you want to be my friend? We can do both, by the way, but like it clearly seems like you don't care about me being good at my job. And that's not fair for you at all. Like seriously, you should be expected to have some kind of training going into your job, and the fact that they didn't train you right is honestly what's really to blame. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about this because this does not sound like a good working environment, and I know if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not want to work there. Today, my psychiatrist asked to move in with me, which I believe is incredibly inappropriate, but right now I'm not sure if I'm overreacting because this is seriously a weird situation. Here's what's happening. Okay, so last week I had an appointment with my psychiatrist, and I disclosed to her that my husband and I were buying a house. She asked details of the house and when we were closing, so I told her exactly what was going on. She then replied by saying, "That's perfect. I just need one bedroom and a kitchen. I love to cook." Now, of course, at first I thought she was joking, but then she went on to say, "I told my landlord I'm moving out of my current place because the commute is too far, and I'm looking for something closer to work. Would you be willing to rent a room out to me?" She then showed me some text messages with her current landlord, who was praising her for being a good tenant. Now, I just kind of brushed it off and I said, "Well, I don't know about a room, but the place we are renting now will be available once we move out." And she said that would be nice, but she was looking for something cheaper. As our session ended, she told me to call her if I needed her, and then she said, "But I might need you first." Now, my husband thought it was funny when I told him, but my best friend thinks that this woman should not be a psychiatrist. Now, I've had previous uncomfortable encounters with her, where she told me my miscarriage happened because I wasn't happy enough, and at this most current session, she told me it's because my baby knew that we didn't own a home yet. So seriously, am I overreacting by thinking that this person is wildly inappropriate? Because right now, I honestly don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, yeah, this lady's completely out of line. She's literally been like, "Oh, let me move in, I love to cook," and then tried to say, "Oh yeah, your baby wasn't born because you weren't happy enough." Or even trying to be like, "Yeah, you don't have a home, so that's why the baby wasn't born." Like, what is going on right now? She doesn't sound like a good doctor at all. She's trying to mix in her personal and professional life, and that is like highly inappropriate with clients. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychiatrist, but I can imagine this is crossing a lot of ethical lines. So no, you're not overreacting, and in fact, I would probably never go back to her ever again, because this is something that definitely needs to be discussed with some kind of like oversight authority of some kind, because what she's doing is completely unacceptable. My mom constantly makes every single conversation all about her, constantly ignoring any conversation I try to have with her, while also derailing what we're saying to make it about her. And I'm seriously so exhausted dealing with this that I just don't know how to fix it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my mother always finds some way to bring every story back to herself. Whether it's negative or positive, she never listens to a story without immediately relating it to herself. When I was younger, I would complain about things going on in my life, and without fail, she would always cut me off and talk about how much harder she had it without listening to or affirming anything I said. So I just stopped coming to her with any problems, but even now, if I dare say anything negative about anything, she will find a way to bring it back to herself and just whine and cry and talk about how difficult her life is. Once, I literally said I'm fighting with a friend and that I was upset, and she just didn't acknowledge it, and instead just said, "You know, I was really popular back in China, and I had a lot of friends," and then started talking about how she had a fight with a friend who was also jealous of her too. Now, when she complains, she sucks all the energy out of the room and just cries and wails while trying to turn everyone into her therapist. If we complain for one single sentence, she lashes out and she's like, "So what? I'm suffering too." Even when I talk about positive things, she will not even listen or reply to a single part of the story without just jumping into a story about herself somehow. For example, a few weeks ago, I mentioned that a friend of mine went to Boston and enjoyed his trip. Now, without even pretending to be interested for a single second, like asking which friend it was or what he did, she immediately launched into a story about how 20 years ago, she went to Boston and then went into detail about how great it was. Like, she just heard the word Boston and jumped right into her own story without ever being like, "Oh, that's nice." I tried to continue my story by saying, "Yeah, he did this and that," and it's like she didn't even hear me. She just kept going on and on about her own anecdotes. And last week, it was my cousin's birthday, and she spent the entire time talking about her own birthday and what she wanted to do in 5 months. I mean, she barely even acknowledged that it was his birthday, and whenever someone would bring up his accomplishments, she would start talking about her own kids' achievements instead. It's honestly so exhausting, and I just can't deal with this for another minute. Okay, honestly, I deal with people like this on a daily basis, and I cannot stand it. I've got some family and friends who kind of fit the bill for this, and they are the worst people to talk to. And for me, it makes me hesitant to ever share anything with them ever again. It doesn't matter if it's good news or bad news, like I know for a fact they're gonna make it about themselves, and that is simply obnoxious because everything's about them. And it's not like you're being selfish by trying to share something about yourself or something that's going on. Like, you're literally just trying to get a word in, and they're turning around and making this all about themselves. Like, that is so annoying. So truly, I have so much sympathy for the original poster because I know exactly what this is like, because living like this is completely miserable. My boyfriend stormed out on my 30th birthday, saying that I ruined it for myself and that I need to apologize for my behavior. But I have simply not done anything wrong to this man, as he is mistreating me in a way that's honestly very concerning. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for a little over a year, and honestly, I don't know what to think anymore. For some context, last year on this exact date, I was blindsided with news that I unfairly and unexpectedly failed a clinical rotation in my doctorate program. They failed me 8 months before graduation, and the program is 4 years in total, and I would would have graduated in May. I've spent the last year grieving that, going through some severe depression, and just last month, I finally got to re-enter the class. I'm now working with a lawyer and spending thousands of dollars because the same mentor and professor tried to dismiss me unfairly again during the first week of classes, after 1 year of waiting to retake this class, as it is only offered once a year. Just yesterday, the lawyer asked me for a time-sensitive document and also has asked for one today on my birthday. He came over unexpectedly last night, even though I told him I had a lot to do. I barely slept. This morning, I was tired, I had low energy, and I was emotionally drained. But despite all of that, I wasn't being mean and I wasn't trying to pick a fight. Now, I asked what we should do today, as our only plan was at 8 o'clock having a dinner with my family. And he just said, well, what do you want to do? And when he said that, I got frustrated. I've been carrying so much lately. I was hoping he would just step up, make a plan, or even grab a coffee or breakfast to start the day. I took a shower and I got ready, etc., which was about an hour's worth of time. And I thought when I went downstairs at around 10:30 in the morning, he would have a coffee waiting for me since I expressed that I wanted one. Well, I went downstairs and he was sitting on the couch with a grim look on his face. I said to him, you didn't get a coffee or anything like that? And when I said that, he got defensive and said that I was being ungrateful. He ended up yelling at me, storming out, telling me that I ruined my own birthday, cursing at me, and that I should just sit with the consequences of how I acted. He left at around 11:30 in the morning and hasn't contacted me once. We have a dinner reservation tomorrow with some of our friends, but he told me that he would go for the sake of the guests and not to celebrate me. Now it's 6 o'clock in the evening and I still haven't heard from him. I need to write another legal document for my lawyer because today is the last day of the semester and I'm under intense pressure to get it written up as soon as possible. And my boyfriend knows all of this. I'm so depressed and overwhelmed that I can't move. I don't even want to go to dinner with my family anymore. But he says I never take accountability. He says I make everything about me, but I don't even scream at him. I don't insult him. I just express disappointment and that I was hoping to feel special after the last year on my birthday. I also want to mention that once he started yelling at me and insisting that I said he does nothing for me, which is something I never said, and telling me that I owe him an apology and that I need to take accountability, I just lost it. He knows I'm not okay and all the pressure I'm under and acting this way on my birthday. At this point, I started yelling back and crying and slammed my bedroom door. And that's when he left and said, screw you. But I just said, you're doing this on my birthday? You know I was failed unexpectedly last year on my exact birthday, and I wanted to reclaim that. He just said to me that he didn't care and that I should think about my behavior and that they have consequences. Now, his dad and I share the same birthday. He is very enmeshed with his family, which I usually don't mind since we live an hour apart and don't get to see each other daily. Before my birthday, he brought up using a hotel suite that we had won during a Halloween contest to celebrate with his dad on Friday, my actual birthday. And the hotel is meaningful to his parents because they spent a part of their honeymoon there. He then said we could celebrate my birthday the next day instead. Also, his parents don't like me because they think I'm unreliable and unserious, you know, because of my unexpected clinical failure. And my parents don't like him because they are around a lot when he acts like this, and they see me cry on the phone and get anxious and all this other stuff, you know, when I should be focusing on school. So me celebrating with his family on Friday was just not an option. I was a little disappointed as it was my 30th birthday, and I hoped that he would want to spend the actual day with me, or at least just a part of it. But when I said that, he flipped out and called me selfish and yelled at me. I was already so emotionally drained from everything going on with school and with the lawyer that I just told him it was fine. I even sent him screenshots of my mom telling me it wasn't a big deal and to let him celebrate with his family so he would just calm down and stop attacking me. Later on, I found out his sister and her boyfriend were in Greece, so his family wasn't even celebrating that day and expected me to just assume he can come to dinner with my family and I. And this honestly left a bad taste in my mouth and ruined the excitement around my birthday. So seriously, is this on me at all? Or is he being emotionally awful and just unsafe? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest, it really sounds like your boyfriend is a narcissist. This guy's lying straight to your face. He's trying to project his own problems onto you as if you did anything wrong, which, spoiler alert, you didn't do anything. And instead, this guy's a complete weirdo. Like, this just doesn't make any sense. He's trying to be like, you need to apologize for your behavior. But it's like, what did you do? You haven't done a single thing. He's screaming at you on your birthday, and he's trying to be like, you need to be more grateful for this. And it's like, what? The bare minimum of you spending time with, oh, I don't know, your partner who you're supposed to care about? Like, I'm sorry, it really seems like true colors are coming out, and that, in my opinion, should be your biggest red flag. Because I really think you can find someone better because this situation is incredibly sketchy. Am I the jerk for saying no to a trip with my boyfriend and his child, since I literally feel like an afterthought in my relationship? Because right now, I'm honestly so frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 25-year-old 25-year-old female, and I've been dating my boyfriend for about 3.5 years. Over a year ago, we moved in together because my housemate was moving out, and at the time, we were both college students, and it just felt like the right next step. Due to personal reasons, my boyfriend had to change weekend jobs and ended up going back to an old job in his mother's town, which is about an hour's drive away. Ever since then, he's been going there every weekend and coming back on Mondays. He also has a child from a previous relationship who he sees every other weekend. Because we both used to work weekends, I don't spend a lot of time with his son, just during the summer for a few weeks when the child would stay with us. Now, I will be honest, my boyfriend wasn't always the most involved dad, but he's improved a lot, and I do admire that. But still, since he went back to working near his mom's place, we've been seeing each other a lot less and fighting a lot more. We've even fought in front of his child. Once, during an argument, my boyfriend told me, "I don't need you," in front of his son, and that really hurt. And ever since then, the child has sometimes disrespected me. My boyfriend often turns a blind eye to it, probably because he only sees his son a few times a month. A couple of months ago, my boyfriend was offered a full-time job at his current workplace. He didn't ask me how I felt about it, he just told me he'd accepted it. And you know what? I congratulated him. I was really happy for him because he was excited, and the job is great for his resume. I mean, he is almost done with a software development degree, but it still stung that he didn't talk to me first or even think about what that meant for our relationship. After that, he moved back in with his mom, but left all of his stuff in our place. He kept paying rent, but it honestly just felt really weird. Like he'd officially moved out. I couldn't afford the rent on my own, and when we fought, he would say he was still helping me by paying for it. And that seriously rubbed me the wrong way, especially since his things were still here. So I found a flatmate and asked him to collect his belongings, and that's exactly what he did. Ever since then, he only comes over on weekends when he has his child, which means no couples time. He sleeps in the same bed as his son when they're here, so I still sleep alone. And last weekend, we had a huge fight. I was crying, exhausted, and very upset, and we both agreed that things need to change. Well, today, he asked if I was going to come over and visit, and I just said no. I went last week, and I drive over 500 kilometers a week just to get to and from work. I'm really tired, and I'm also down for overtime this Sunday. He then suggested that we go on a ferry trip from Dublin to Liverpool for the bank holiday, and I didn't love the idea as I would rather fly, but I was open to it. That is until he mentioned he's bringing his son. I then blurted out that I wasn't interested in going on a trip with them, and I had assumed that this would be something for just the two of us to try and reconnect. Well, when I said that, he got upset, saying that I used to be very hands-on with his son, watching him so my boyfriend could rest or play video games, as well as cooking and cleaning, taking him to the doctor, waking up in the middle of the night to give him medicine, or help him go to the bathroom. But after that day he told me that he didn't need me, I felt like a complete idiot, and so I just stepped back. I went from acting like a stepmom to just being dad's girlfriend. I still play with the child occasionally, but that's about it. During our argument, my boyfriend called me a vegetable for the way I behave around his son, and this really hurt. I mean, just the day before, I had taken them both to see Lilo and Stitch and paid for it, and while he apologized later, the comment still stuck with me. When his son is around, I feel like I don't belong. I seriously feel like I'm in the way, and if my boyfriend tries to hug me, his child will run in between us and ask his dad to stay with him instead. Now, I don't blame the kid. He's only 6, but I do think it's my boyfriend's responsibility to manage those boundaries. I used to feel welcome with them, but now I simply don't. I feel like I'm just there on the outside looking in. I really don't want to take this trip with them. I thought this was going to be a chance for us to spend time together and fix what's already been broken. But again, I feel like I'm just an afterthought, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest with the original poster, because your boyfriend is one giant walking red flag. Like, this guy wants a babysitter, he wants someone who will cook for him, he wants you to literally take care of your kid, but at the end of the day, he doesn't want a relationship. And that really is so weird to me. So on that end, I don't blame you for being really frustrated and being like, okay, I'm an afterthought here. This guy doesn't care about me, look at the way he's treating me. I think you're spot on for seeing things exactly the way they are, because in my opinion, your boyfriend is taking advantage of you, and that seems like a huge waste of time. My toxic friend has been making fun of me for months by using me as the butt of the joke to try and get a laugh. But after putting up with this for months, he finally goes way too far, forcing me to take a stand in a way that he honestly never expected. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so my friend, who I will call Alex, wasn't just my friend. We were the kind of friends who became a part of each other's daily routines. It started in 5th grade. We were randomly partnered up in gym class for some team building relay where neither of us really cared enough to win. That first conversation was nothing special, just complaints about the school lunch and jokes about how the gym teacher ran like a penguin, but somehow we stuck. It wasn't even something we had to talk about. We were just always around each other. Through middle school, we built a friendship on games, bad YouTube videos, inside jokes, and hours of mindless conversation that meant everything to us. He knew the name of my childhood cat, the code to my phone, and the fact that I hated the number 7 for no real reason. I knew his favorite snack, the way he scratched behind his ear when he lied, and the fact that his dad walked out when he was 8 years old. We were family. At least I thought we were. In high school, things shifted and I noticed it slowly. He started hanging out with the louder, flashier people, the kind of people who always filmed everything for TikTok, who thought roasting your friends was the highest form of comedy, who chased after clout like it was air. And at first, I laughed along when he made me the target of jokes in front of them. It was always small stuff, telling them I had a weird fear of mannequins, that I still slept with a fan on because silence made me anxious, and I would laugh too because it really felt harmless. But over time, the jokes started to hit different. He'd bring up things I told him in confidence, things that no one else knew, like how I used to stay home from school when my anxiety got too bad to fake being okay, or about how one time I called a helpline during a panic attack because I didn't know who else to talk to, how I wrote letters to myself in a notebook to remind myself to stay alive when things felt too heavy. He turned those things into punchlines, all of it disguised as dark humor. But you know what? I let it slide because I still believed he was my best friend. I just kept forgiving him and swallowing all of it down. I told myself he didn't mean harm, that he was just caught up in trying to impress people, that deep down he was still the same guy who stayed up with me on FaceTime when my dog passed away. But the night it all fell apart started with a message that said, "Party at my cousin's house this Saturday. You better come along. Wouldn't be the same without you." Now I hesitated. I barely knew his cousin. In fact, I didn't know most of the people who would be there, but a part of me hoped that this was a sign. Maybe he wanted to reconnect. Maybe it was his way of saying we're still good. So I just went. The party was loud and crowded. I didn't know anyone except for Alex and a couple of faces I'd seen on his Instagram. I hung close to him at first and he acted normal and friendly, and we talked like we used to, joked about how weird his cousin's new haircut was, and for a brief moment, I felt like maybe everything was okay. But then the thing that kind of broke me finally happened. People were gathered in the living room with drinks in hand, music low for once, and this is when someone shouted, "Let's do story time, embarrassing moments only." And when someone said that, Alex jumped up and I honestly just should have known. He then grabbed everyone's attention with the kind of confidence that only came from knowing you were about to be the center of attention. He then looked around the room with this smirk I recognized way too well. And that's when he said it. "Alright, I've got one. My boy over here," pointing straight at me, "once told me that he used to wear long sleeves every single day, even during the summer, because he was hiding the scars on his arms. Like he would say he was just cold, but nah, he was cutting. And it's all because a girl didn't respond to his message. He said, 'Oh, I feel broken, but I don't want to be alive anymore.'" And when he said this, he laughed and other people laughed as well. But some of them also went quiet. One girl muttered, "Man, that's like kind of messed up." But most of them just followed Alex's lead. Someone then pulled out their phone and another guy asked if this is real. And Alex just grinned and said, "Yeah, I was like, bro, chill. You're not in a Netflix show." At this point, I didn't even move. I mean, I simply couldn't. It felt like everything inside of me froze. I just looked at him and I honestly didn't see my best friend. I saw a stranger wearing his face and I realized right then that maybe he had been that stranger for a while. So I stood up quietly. No scene, no yelling, and I just walked out. He didn't follow after me, not that night at least, but the next day I got messages. And of course, there was no apology and just excuses. But after I saw those messages, I didn't reply, but instead I blocked him. For days, I felt hollow. I replayed everything, not just the party, but the months leading up to it. All the things I ignored, all the times I laughed along when I shouldn't have, all the times I thought loyalty meant staying quiet, while someone slowly erased the parts of you that you trusted them with. I told him things I never told anyone else, things that came from the ugliest, most painful corners of my life, and he turned them into entertainment, for laughs and likes and attention. I don't care if he regrets it now, and I don't care if he realized how badly he messed up. Some lines once crossed, you just can't walk back over, and some things once you've said them echo too loud to be ignored. I used to think that losing a friend like Alex would feel like a death, a grief, but honestly it didn't. It felt like waking up, like finally realizing that someone who says they love you while humiliating you in front of friends was never your friend in the first place. He thought it was funny. He thought I'd let it slide like I always did. But that was the last time because I never looked back ever again after that. Okay, first of all, I want to say to the original poster, I am so sorry this happened to you. That is so messed up that Alex even began to share that stuff about you because you do not deserve to have your secrets out in the open like that, especially when they're going to be like put on a pedestal for ridicule. That's not fair. You don't deserve that. And it's especially stupid that he didn't even apologize. He'd like literally just tried to excuse it away. I wouldn't even be surprised if he tried to blame you, which people like this probably would. So honestly, with all things considered, I think blocking him absolutely was the best thing to do because this guy was not your friend. He hasn't been your friend for a while. Like the second someone tries to do stuff like that, where they're sharing very private things about me with everybody else, that is the moment moment, I'm gonna be like, no, we're not friends and I cannot hang out with you anymore. You're clearly a bully who's just turned on me, and that's not fair for me. So yeah, this whole situation sucks, and I'm honestly glad you did cut him off, because this guy is not your friend and you deserve way better than this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejurk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My roommates all said to me that if I'm tired of cleaning up after them, then I should just leave their stuff exactly where I found it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by doing exactly that, frustrating them beyond end until they finally complied and started cleaning up after themselves. Here's how I did it. Okay, I'm a 35-year-old female now, but in college I rented a small house with 3 dudes, all of us in our early 20s. I have many stories of petty revenge from this time in my life, as guys in their 20s who are living away from their mothers for the first time often need the point illustrated in no uncertain terms, but this is one of my absolute favorites. The house had a bathroom for the 4 of us, and as the only girl and the only one with a clean freak for a mother, I ended up doing basically all of the cleaning. I frequently put things away in the common space, namely shoes in the front closet, laptop on a shelf so no one trips over the cord, etc., both because it made cleaning easier and because it's common courtesy to clean up your crap in common spaces. I was often met with irritation from my roommates, as they said they couldn't find their stuff, as if I was hiding it from them and not putting it in a perfectly reasonable and agreed upon place. During this time, one roommate also had a girlfriend who was basically a squatter in our house. I did my best to be friendly and welcoming, including driving her places when I had time and helping her find a job, which were both mistakes in hindsight, but that's another story for another day. She technically had a place to live elsewhere, but all of her stuff somehow ended up in our house, including our one tiny bathroom, which she showered in twice a day, despite contributing nothing to rent or utilities. The number of products lining our shower easily tripled when she appeared, which made cleaning the bathroom a nightmare. Now, I asked her to please corral her bathroom stuff and keep it in his room so the shower could be clean without knocking 27 conditioner bottles over, but that was apparently asking for too much. The final verdict from my roommates was that I should just leave their stuff where I found it. So I did exactly that. When I cleaned the shower, I sprayed down all of her bathroom products with cleaning supplies rather than moving it out of the way. And as a result, it melted her expensive shampoo bar pretty quickly and made all of her bottled products really slippery. But you know what? I was just following instructions. The roommate's laptop was plugged in, so I tripped over the cord while walking through the living room. Well, you said leave it, so I did, even though tripping over it unplugged it, and now it's dead when you need to use it. But this is my personal favorite one. My roommate and girlfriend left their shoes all over the living room rug, even though the closet is literally 3 feet away, but I needed to vacuum, so I left their stuff where I found it, rolled up the living room rug with their shoes inside, and vacuumed the whole house. They literally then came out halfway through and asked where I put their shoes because they were leaving, but I said to them I didn't put them anywhere. I left them exactly where I found them. Now at this point they kept looking really confused until about 30 minutes later when I unrolled the rug and replaced it, revealing their shoes. They then called me a jerk, but after the shoe incident, suddenly her bathroom products were put away. The shoes ended up in the closet and the laptop was plugged in somewhere out of the way, which honestly is exactly how it should have been from the beginning. Yeah, this is one of the best ways to handle this because roommates like this are the worst. They're lazy, they don't do anything to help out, and then they complain when you don't like the fact that their crap is everywhere. So good for you for getting some revenge because these people sound incredibly obnoxious. Am I the jerk for not attending my best friend's baby shower after the hurtful thing that she said over me being single? Because right now I'm still upset and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my best friend and I have been close ever since college. She got pregnant last year and I've been super supportive even though I'm not really a baby person. She's been planning this elaborate baby shower for months and I was supposed to be co-hosting with her sister. I mean, we picked out decorations, we sent out invites, the whole thing. Well, last weekend we were at Target getting last minute supplies and she was complaining about another friend who's been weird since the pregnancy announcement. She then looks at me and says, "Well, at least you're handling this better than I expected. I was worried you'd get jealous and bitter like single girls usually do." And when I heard this, I was so shocked and I just didn't even respond in the moment. But it's seriously been eating at me all week. Now the shower is this Saturday and I just don't want to go anymore. When she texted asking about final head count, I told her I just couldn't make it. And now she's been blowing up my phone asking what's wrong. I then explained why I was hurt and she said I'm overreacting and that it was just a joke. But now she's telling people I abandoned her over nothing. So honestly, am I being too sensitive? Because that comment really stung, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I can honestly see where you're coming from here. That was a really rude comment, and the fact that she's trying to be like, "Oh, it was a joke, you're overreacting." Like instead of apologizing, like she's really trying to double down and be like, "Oh, you're the one with a problem." And that for me is like the main reason why I would be very pissed off. I don't need to be treated like that. I definitely don't need to be talked down to and treated like my feelings don't matter all because you're the one that did something that really offended me. And yeah, that comment is very hurtful. You had no reason to be talked to like that. So no, I don't think you would be the jerk if you didn't go to this baby shower, because it does seem like your friend is being very rude to you, and you definitely do not deserve that. Am I the jerk for not waking up a tourist who overslept and missed the day trip that she paid for? Because after dealing with her waffling about for the past few days, she finally got the karma that she deserved, despite the fact that she's pissed off and said that she's gonna leave me a bad review. Here's what's happening. To start things out, I'm a 21-year-old female, and I'm a Bulgarian tour guide who accompanies groups to Sicily. On a recent trip, one woman who was traveling alone, who was probably in her mid-30s, was consistently oversleeping. The first day we arrived, we had a day trip planned, for which we depart at 8 o'clock in the morning, as we do with all other day tours. Now, I make sure that everybody there is informed of the departure times on the bus the day before, and they also have my number to call in case they forget, so I can remind them. They also all have printed out pamphlets with a schedule made by the travel agency that I personally hand out that has the time for the departure on it. All of the group was on time except for this one woman. She was late by maybe 10 minutes, which okay, maybe she got caught up in something and was late, so I just excused it. Then I mentioned to the whole bus in the microphone that I didn't tolerate lateness beyond 15 minutes at most, with the only stipulation being like in case of an emergency, like a forgotten possession or something like that. But regardless, I must always be called and informed in case someone is running late. Now, thankfully, otherwise, the trip went pretty good. The next day, the same tourist was late again by about 25 minutes, almost an entire half hour. I called her twice to no answer, and we were just about to leave without her when she came out running and got on the bus. And she got really lucky because the receptionist of the hotel had asked me about a missing piece of information on the rooming list, and that earned her just a bit of time. Now, I reminded everyone again that I will not be waiting anymore for late tourists in the morning, and that waking up on time is their responsibility. When we came back that evening, she asked me if I could make sure to wake her up on time, but I reminded her a third time that I'm not responsible for waking people up. Everyone gets a printed itinerary with departure times, and I announce everything the day before, but she just kept saying, no, just knock on my door if I'm not out by 8:15. And I just kept repeating, I really can't do that for everyone, please set an alarm. Well, on the day we were visiting Syracuse, she didn't show up. I waited 15 minutes after the supposed departure time, called her twice to no response, then left with a bus and the rest of the group. She then called me in a panic about an hour later, asking where we were, but I explained the situation calmly. She then got angry and said that I had one job and that I cheated her out of the money that she paid to go on that trip. She missed the whole day trip and was furious the next day. Later, she told the rest of the group that I abandoned her and also called my agency, leaving a bad review about me. So seriously, am I the jerk for not personally waking up a grown woman, despite warning her multiple times that I wouldn't do this? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Okay, before we go any further, the original poster has an update, and this is exactly what they had to say. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I talked to my manager today. I was nervous at first because I was already tired of this whole shenanigan, and I didn't want to spend ages defending myself. So I went to him first and I explained the situation before he approached me. He told me word for word, honey, I deleted that BS from my email as soon as I read it. And honestly, I just really was so happy. What an icon. They're removing the bad review, keeping my reputation intact. Holy crap, imagine being in your 30s and not being able to wake up on time. Like seriously, if you really spent that much money and you can't even get up on time for the tour guide, then what are you doing, man? You could have done that at home. And the original poster couldn't have explained this anymore. They literally said, look, if you want to be on time, then you gotta get up on time. I'm not gonna hold your hand and knock on your door and say, okay, it's time to get up. Like, dude, set an alarm like everybody else. You are an adult. Like seriously, have some kind of responsibility, because this entire scenario is that tourist's fault and nobody else's. Am I the jerk for asking for my dead sister's ring back after my brother stole it from me to use to propose to his girlfriend? Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister passed away when I was 6 years old, and she was like 17. We weren't super close or anything like that, but I still remember little bits of her. Her laugh, how she always painted her nails, her posters, etc. She was like this perfect angel to my mom after she passed away, and I barely remember the funeral. When I was like 12 years old, I found this old ring in her stuff. It was nothing fancy, just a silver ring with a small stone, but it fit me, and I don't know why, but I just kept it. It wasn't some big dramatic thing. I didn't steal it or anything like that. I just took it and I started keeping it. I didn't wear it loads or flaunt it, but I just had it in this little box, and sometimes I'd look at it when I missed her. It kind of became this one thing that felt like mine, like my piece of her. So anyways, last weekend when we had this family lunch, and my 27-year-old brother brings his girlfriend who everyone knew he was going to propose to, and yeah, he stands up, does a big speech, and then pulls out the ring, my sister's ring, the one that I've kept for like 7 years. I literally froze. His girlfriend starts crying, people are clapping, snapping, and I'm just sat there saying to myself, what is going on? I look at my mom and she just smiles at me like nothing happened. After dinner, I ask her, was that the ring? And she's like, yeah, your brother asked me and dad, and we said it was fine. She said it was sweet and symbolic, and my sister would have wanted it passed down or whatever. And I was like, what are you talking about? It was never yours to give though. Like, I've had it for years. And she just says to me, oh, come on, it's just a ring, don't be dramatic. But like when I had it, it wasn't just a ring. So yeah, I kind of snapped. I waited till people were outside and I told my brother I wanted it back. And at first he laughed, but then he was like, what? No. So I said, okay, then I'll tell your girlfriend where it came from and we'll let her decide. He then got really mad and said I was ruining his proposal and making it about me like always. My mom then dragged me into the kitchen saying everyone noticed I wasn't happy and that I left halfway through dinner. And you know what? She's right, because I was crying in the bathroom. My dad tried to calm it down, but my brother just kept on going about how selfish I was and that I had been weird about my sister for years. But at this point, I didn't say anything and I just left early, and I haven't spoken to any of them ever since then. My mom called me up yesterday asking if I had calmed down and if I'm ready to say sorry, but I said not really, and then she just hung up. My cousin texted me later saying it was actually super messed up and she doesn't blame me, but I honestly don't know. I probably could have handled this better, but I just felt so blindsided. It's not even about the stupid ring. It's the fact that they acted like it didn't matter to me, like it didn't matter at all. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset. Okay, this is really messed up from your family because they literally stole this from you. Like, they straight up robbed you of something that they never cared about in the first place. They probably only wanted that ring when they saw you wearing it on occasion, and they're like, oh yeah, she did wear that when she was alive. Let's take it and use it for a proposal. You know, 7 years after the fact. Like, what's going on right now? Because I'm sure you've mentioned it and talked about it, and you've kept it safe for 7 years. So the fact that they stole it and used it for this is so disrespectful. Like, wouldn't you want to have some kind of conversation with your sister and be like, look, I want to use my deceased sister's ring to propose to my girlfriend. Will you allow me to do this? Like, having a conversation like that would have been way better than what they did. If anything, I think the original poster would have been more on board with it if they introduced it in this way. Like, otherwise it's just straight up stealing and just gaslighting. So no, you're not the jerk here. You've clearly been taking care of that ring for several years, and the fact that they stole it and used it like this without asking first, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Today, I just found out the real reason why my ex broke up with me 4 years ago out of nowhere, and now I'm incredibly upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm in a healthy relationship and I have been for almost 4 years now. We live together and we're planning on buying a house and getting married. The person I was with before this relationship was a longtime childhood friend who broke up with me suddenly out of the blue with little explanation. Now, I was very surprised and upset about the breakup at the time, and I never got any closure as to why he ended things. As we were childhood friends, we shared a friendship group and have continued to share the same friendship group, meaning we often are at the same social events together, but I just deliberately don't speak directly to him or seek out any interaction with him, as I feel like our friendship ended when our relationship did, but I do try to keep things civil. Well, he started to date another girl in my group recently, and I was speaking to her and explaining how happy I was for her, as she's been dating a string of awful men, and I was glad that she was choosing a safe guy. Well, she then confessed to me that she's been sleeping with him for years, and that they actually slept together when me and him were dating. She told me that the reason why he broke up with me suddenly was because he felt guilty for cheating on me, and that he had been confiding in her that he wanted to break up with me because he felt bad about sleeping with her. Now, she was surprised that this was news to me, and I just tried to keep a poker face and not seem upset. I now feel conflicted. On one hand, this was over 4 years ago, almost 5 probably, and I'm now in a happy and healthy relationship, but I now feel so blindsided by this, especially as she was someone I considered a friend. I've not spoken to my partner about this because I don't want him to think I'm still hung up on my past relationships, but seriously, I'm at such a loss right now that I really just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I want to say I'm so sorry this is happening because this sounds like it's going to be devastating to deal with. And yeah, you absolutely have every right to deal with this in some kind of way, in my opinion. But let's break this down real quick because this is some crazy stuff. First of all, you have a terrible friend group, because I guarantee that that friend is not the only person that knew that your boyfriend was sleeping around with other people in the friend group. Like, holy crap, they're probably all in on it besides you. And that is crazy in my opinion. Like, there's no good excuse for that. If they were really your friends, they would be like, hey, this is what's going on and you should definitely know for your own happiness. Because this guy literally avoided talking to you about this because he felt guilty. Not because you did anything wrong, but because he messed up in a huge way and continued to mess up, and he just didn't want to face any of the consequences. And I really hope eventually you can see this as like a freeing thing where you're like, oh good, I dodged a train with this guy, but it doesn't ignore the fact that this guy literally cheated on you with your best friend. Like, that's some crazy crap crap in my opinion. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be reevaluating my entire friend group. A lot of people in the comment section of this post said that, and I echo the same opinion. Because if one of them can go behind your back and mess around like that, then there's a high likelihood that everybody else in some way, shape, or form knew about it and still decided to say nothing to you. And in my opinion, I just don't think you deserve that because this is so messed up. My entitled siblings are convinced that my mom has a secret stash of money, as they're now pressuring my mom to give up her house so that they could split it solely between the two of them. And I'm honestly so exhausted dealing with this that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my brother, my sister, and their spouses feel as if mom should give them her house and property and then move into an old folks home, or even just buy them a house. Now, while my mom is almost 80 years old, she has all of her faculties about her. She is well educated and very spry, but it's mostly my sister and brother causing all the trouble. A few years ago, my stepdad passed away. He was a great guy and good to my mom. My older brother and my younger sister are convinced that mom has secret money that was left to her when my stepdad passed away. Now, at first, they thought that she had cash hidden in the house. So they would visit her and one of them would keep her busy while the other would snoop around. Then they convinced themselves that she had a secret bank account somewhere else. But no, she doesn't. I do most of her banking and set up her accounts for auto pay. She owns her house free and clear. After dad died, I orchestrated a GoFundMe to get her house paid off, and we were successful. And they don't know that I did this. They were kept out of the loop for fear that they'd pressure her into giving them some of the money, so they have no idea how she paid her house off, and only that she paid it off in some way. But they really ramped up the pressure after she paid off the house, and now they are convinced more than ever that she has a secret stash of money. But eventually, we told them about the GoFundMe for her house, hoping they would finally back off of mom, but instead they lost it. They wanted some kind of accounting of the money, and they wanted anything that was in that account turned over to them, saying they would take me to court for elder financial mistreatment. Now, she only has to pay the monthly bills, and I set up the auto pay for her, so I know exactly how much money she has. Enough to live on, but not enough to have any fun. So I pay her water and cell phone bills for her, I transfer the money to her account every month, but they have each told her she needs to give them money for a down payment on a house since she refuses to give up her home of 35 years. They also say that if she won't give them any money, then she needs to give up an acre to each of them. And it's like, how are they so entitled to her money? She receives less than $4,000 a month to live on, and I cannot convince them that she doesn't have a secret bank account. The thing they do not understand is that he was not our biological father, and he didn't raise us. Mom and our stepdad married when we were all out of the house. No matter how many times I point this out, they say it doesn't matter, since they still called him dad. It's been a few years, but they still bring it up often. Mom called me last night and she was tired and had been working hard the entire day, and yet the both of them have been calling her for the last few weeks, upping the pressure. The last time they brought it up, they talked about splitting her house and property between the two of them, and then once again mentioning her secret bank account. Now, there are 5 siblings altogether, but since the other 3, namely with houses and careers, are doing better than these two, they think they're entitled to her home and property after she passes away. But what they do not know is that she left her house and 5 acres to an animal rescue and activist group that she is very active in. And I know this because I'm the executor of the will. She's asked me not to tell them, and honestly, I can see exactly why. So seriously, how do I get them to back off of her without telling them that there's no chance in the world that they are ever going to get anything? She doesn't want them to know about her will for fear that they might bother the animal rescue activist group that she's a part of. What should I do? Honestly, the way that your siblings are acting is completely out of line. Seriously, like, these people are delusional. Maybe instead of trying to secure an inheritance that isn't there, they can get to work and figure their careers out. Like, dude, what is their problem? It is personally so obnoxious watching people act like this, especially over something that's literally not even there. So my only real suggestion is maybe telling your mom to just not answer the phone anymore, because this kind of behavior is super weird, and you guys do not deserve to deal with this in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My former boss disputes my work history 6 months after I left, as he literally reports me on LinkedIn, even though the history that I gave was completely accurate. So I got some revenge by filling his inbox up with spam, ruining his work and home life in a way that he will never recover from. Here's how I did it. A few years ago, I was working at a corporate job and had a very significant death in the family, my grandfather, that I needed to take time off to go handle. I needed to help with the estate and honestly just grieve the loss of my grandfather, because after all, we were very, very close to each other. I asked my manager to use emergency PTO and it was denied. I asked to go on FMLA instead and it was also denied, saying that grandparents didn't qualify. I then told him I wouldn't be able to come in for at least a couple of weeks while I flew down to Florida to attend the funeral and help with the estate. But they told me that if I did that, I would be terminated. So they terminated me and even had the gall to offer me 2 weeks of severance in exchange for signing an NDA, a gag order, and an indemnity clause, which means I would not be able to sue them. I wouldn't be able to talk smack about them or others online. I mean, I think you get the idea. And of course, I completely refused. That conversation took place on August 1st. On my LinkedIn profile, I listed that I worked there from my start date to the beginning of August, but the company dated my termination for the 31st of July, and they said this had to do with benefits or something like that. Well, fast forward to January, and I was up early with my 6-week-old newborn, and it's there that I got a LinkedIn notification that my former manager viewed my profile. A few minutes later, I got an email from LinkedIn that my employment at that company was being disputed, and he disputed the difference between the 31st of July and August 1st. LinkedIn ignored my dispute of the report and removed the company experience from my profile entirely. Not to mention that when I did repost the experience, it would no longer be verified by LinkedIn because I would have to verify through a company email address, which I no longer had. I mean, the absolute gall of this guy. And seriously, you're thinking about me 6, almost 7 months later? So I decided to get some petty revenge. I found his home address online, I had his personal cell phone number in my phone, and I also found his personal and work email address. And it's here that I signed him up for as much spam as I could possibly find. And not just that, I went to every morning company and real estate agency in the area asking to be put in contact with an agent saying that I was looking for a house for $800,000 and for moving companies to give quotes for a cross-country move. I gave those websites every contact information I had for him. And this is something that would excite just about anyone getting that kind of sales lead. Well, fast forward, and a former coworker in the same department told me that his phone was blowing up for days. And we're talking both his work phone and his personal cell phone. And his role was client-facing, so he couldn't just ignore the phone calls. Now, I don't know if he ever figured out that it was me who did that, but those calls would have started pouring in within an hour of his report to LinkedIn, which honestly is the least I can do for this scumbag. Good for you for getting back at your boss. This is so stupid. He seriously went on LinkedIn and said, sorry, but you didn't work here until August 1st. You only worked here until July 31st. Sorry, but that's the way it is. Like, seriously, this guy's obsessed with you. Like, what's going on right now? You mean to tell me that this guy literally went out of his way to report you to LinkedIn by being like, this is being disputed because he's lying? Like, dude, what's your problem? Like, seriously, what's going on right now? That is so ignorant because it's just not the truth. Because in reality, the original poster had to do this to go, I don't know, grieve the loss of his grandfather. You know, the guy that literally died in his family. And the boss is like, no, you can't go see them. If you do, you're gonna get terminated. Like, what a loser, dude. Seriously. So this really was the least you could do for this guy. Because in my opinion, he deserved way worse than getting spammed. Am I the jerk for holding firm on my boundaries with my roommate, as I'm literally just trying to figure out our living situation in a way that respects the both of us as best as we can? Because things are getting messy and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm moving into a new apartment in a few weeks with a roommate. The apartment has 2 bedrooms and the rent is $2,600. One room is a little bigger and has more closet space, and my roommate and I are trying to figure out who gets which room and how to split rent in a way that feels fair. Now, she's saying she wants the bigger room and that it should only be $50 more than the other one, but she also wants to put her desk in the living room to work there. I already told her I'm not comfortable with that because I would feel like I'm disturbing her if I needed to cook or just relax in the shared space while she needs some quiet or is in a meeting or something like that. I also told her that I think the bigger room should cost $100 more because it has more space and a larger closet. She then came back and said she thinks the rent should only be about a $50 difference, and she really wants to have a desk in the living room and maybe use more of the shared hallway storage than me as well. Now, to me, that just feels really imbalanced and is way more than I would try to ask for personally. I mean, she's getting a bigger room, an extra separate workspace outside of her room, and taking over more of the shared space, all for barely more rent. My 2 biggest priorities are, for one, having a decent sized room where I can study privately since I'm starting an intense dental hygiene program, and 2, feeling like I can use the shared space without walking on eggshells or constantly worrying about being too loud. So I suggested 2 different things. My first option is that she takes the smaller room, we split the rent evenly, and she uses the hallway storage to make up for the closet size difference and put her desk in the living room. The second option is she takes the larger room, pays $100 more, or just $50 more if I get the single parking lot spot, and the shared spaces stay neutral, meaning there would be no desk, and we get to split the hallway storage equally, and everyone can use the space whenever. I'm not being stubborn about the money, and I honestly would be happy to pay whatever I need to if the common spaces were shared evenly and I had the larger room. I just don't want to end up in a situation where I feel resentful or like I don't have space to breathe. I've tried to compromise, but it feels like she's pushing for everything she wants without really taking my needs into account. So am I the jerk for holding firm to these compromise options and telling her no? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm out of line. Okay, in my opinion, you absolutely are not the jerk here. Seriously, you guys are living together, which in my opinion really does mean that yeah, you should probably be working together to make sure this works for the both of you. And the fact that she's pushing so hard to be like, no, this is the way I want it, that's really obnoxious in my opinion and just completely over the line. And if anything, it would almost make me tempted to find another roommate of some kind, because this sounds super obnoxious. Like I would not want to deal with this. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because what you're asking in my opinion is super reasonable. Am I the jerk for supposedly ruining my vacation with my boyfriend and I, all because I was nervous about driving in a country I've never been to before? Because right now he's kind of blaming me for everything, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I are on vacation and we decided to rent a car as it was his idea. Now it's important to note that he doesn't have a valid driving license for the country we're in, so the only possible way to drive around is me being the only driver for the whole vacation trip. Now I usually really dislike driving, but of course I do it anyways out of necessity. But driving in a foreign country with no one else who could take my place in case of an emergency seemed a bit too much for me. And also I'm really young, so I don't have a lot of experience. For reference, I'm a 23-year-old female and my boyfriend is 27. So he tried to convince me, and after some arguing, I finally gave in to his request. And I mean, everybody knows that sometimes you have to make a compromise in a relationship. The problem is that once we arrived, I realized it was more difficult than I thought. I got really nervous and I also acted really rude towards him, all while I was driving because I was literally stressed out, which made me feel really bad. I said I was sorry and everything, but the trip just kept getting more and more stressful, with me having to drive for hours to reach the different places he booked and getting so tired both physically and mentally as I'm not used to long drives in the slightest. And because he doesn't drive, he literally couldn't even take my place. But now he's telling me about how I'll never go anywhere with this attitude of mine and how surprised he is that I'm so adverse to trying new things and how I shouldn't go abroad if I'm so uncomfortable with getting out of my comfort zone. All of this because I got so stressed out with all the driving that I needed to do. I feel like I made some mistakes and I could have behaved better while driving, but I also feel like he doesn't realize how demanding he's being and how bad his words hurt me. I told him that I compromised with him and decided to rent a car, but he could have compromised too and booked places that weren't so far away from one another. He criticized me a lot for the whole vacation, basically telling me that I'm not made for the life that I would like to live because of this car stuff. And he's actually referencing me studying abroad and all that. I also suggested that we bring the car back to the rental company earlier and find another solution, but he said absolutely not. That since I said yes, I should be driving around until the end of the trip. Now at this point, I don't care who's wrong or who's right. I just want to salvage what's left of the vacation and stop fighting, because right now I don't know if I'm the jerk and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I would never apologize to this man ever again, but secondly, it looks like his true colors are finally coming out on vacation. Like this guy literally is like, no, we can't bring it back to the car company because you agreed to do this. That means you're gonna drive around the entire time. And my only response would be to say like, no, not if you're gonna act like that. Like this is some weird narcissistic behavior. You don't owe this guy an apology. He's being so stupid. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy's being a massive weirdo, and the fact that he's trying to put this on you, in my opinion, is so stupid because you literally have done nothing wrong. Am I the jerk for not letting my partner come with me on my vacation after he started to try and change my plans that are very strict? Here's what's going on. Okay, I'm a 30-year-old female, and I've had this vacation plan since I was in middle school. It centers around a movie and book series I'm in love with, and I am a massive fan. I have a vacation booked to see the filming locations, I'm staying in some of the filming locations, and basically I have a very strict itinerary. This has been a dream of mine forever, and I'm unwilling to compromise on a single instance of it. It sounds crazy, but I had a rough home life, and this series was my escape, and now that I have adult money, I will see this to fruition. Now my partner, who is a 30-year-old male, wants to come along with me and is willing to pay for anything he also wants to do. Now I love him, he is great, and I'd be willing for him to come along. However, he does not like this series, and it wouldn't be fun for him, and he also wants to add some national parks and other things to the trip. But if we did that, it would screw over my time-sensitive itinerary since it's planned for every day exactly. I told him if he comes along, everything he wants to do is on his own time, as my itinerary is what I'm sticking to exactly. I have this week planned to the minute, and I will regret if I miss a single thing. Well, he's now upset because he feels this defeats the point of him coming along. He wants to spend that time with me, and he's worried about me flying solo as as a woman across the country. He wants to be there in case the rental car breaks down or something happens so that I'm not anxious and alone trying to solve my problems. Now, I get those concerns. I think they're valid. I mean, I do have anxiety after all, and his desire to support me is very sweet. There would be a 4-hour time difference between us if something did happen, which is another concern of his. He feels I'm being very concrete on this and is frustrated by my lack of willingness to budge on it. I told him it's no different than if he wanted to go to New Zealand to see the Lord of the Rings stuff, and I tried to plan other stuff that wasn't Lord of the Rings related on days where he was wanting to visit Hobbitville or whatever the Shire village is called. I told him if he wants to come, he can either do his own thing, follow my itinerary, or just not come at all. I told him honestly, I want to go alone. I want to go on this trip because I want to be with someone who I know will appreciate it as much as I will, which is me. And now he's upset because he feels like I'm not seeing the big picture and I don't want to spend that time together. So honestly, am I being unreasonable here? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, seriously, your boyfriend's being super weird in my opinion. And the fact that he's trying to be like, oh yeah, you can't do this because you have anxiety. What if the car breaks down? What if you're flying and something happens? It's like, dude, your girlfriend is 30 years old. Like, what's going on right now? I'm pretty sure she can rent a car by herself and fly solo, no problem. And honestly, for the original poster, I completely get it. I understand where you're coming from, where you're like, look, this is super important and I have an itinerary I want to follow. Like, this has been a dream of yours for a long time and you don't want anything getting in the way. And it sounds like your partner would absolutely get in the way. He's trying to derail this trip you've waited for a long time. And that is unacceptable in my opinion. Like, seriously, that's not okay. And the fact that he doesn't see that is really annoying as well. So no, you're not the jerk for being picky about this. You guys can go on another vacation if he's so extremely upset about this. Like, it wouldn't be that hard to plan for like a year from now another trip that you guys can do together, or sooner if it's really bothering him. But it really seems like he's trying to like hijack your vacation, and that just sounds super annoying. And in my opinion, that makes him more of the jerk than you ever will be. Am I the jerk for calling the police and reporting my friends after my gaming console went missing from my house? Because my 3 friends are the only people who have been in my house for the past 3 months. And despite the fact that I've tried to get them to come clean in some kind of way, they still are in complete denial, refusing to give me any information about my missing console, and even going as far as saying that they'll call the police on me if I contact them. And at this point, I'm super frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 33-year-old male and I was gone out of state at the end of May of 2025. I had entrusted a friend of mine to watch my dogs while I was gone, and I told him that I only wanted him to go check on the dogs, clean up whatever mess they made, and then go. And for the sake of the story, we'll call this friend Aaron. Well, I have a doorbell camera, and every time he was there, which was like 4 times in total, he brought his friend who we will call Chad. I texted Aaron and I asked why Chad was there too, and Aaron told me that his car wasn't starting, and he didn't want to walk and he needed a ride, and Chad didn't want to wait in the car. Well, Aaron and Chad had been over at my place before, so I just shrugged it off and I let it be. Well, a few weeks ago, another friend had been staying with me, and we'll call him Nate for the sake of the story, and after something happened with his mode of transportation that had broken down, I offered him a place to stay and he graciously obliged and said thank you. He also said when the time comes he'll get a job, sign a lease with me, and then pay the rent, which I thought was great, so I agreed. Well, cut to Wednesday and I wanted to play a game on my handheld console. I keep it on my entertainment center in the living room. I went to go grab it and the system, the dock, the power cable, and HDMI cable were all gone. I didn't take them with me on my trip, and even if I did, I would not have brought the dock, the power cord, and the HDMI cables. It's a USB-C charging port, and I have plenty of those just lying around. I call the manufacturer of the console and they find the serial number and they give it to me. I asked if they could somehow see any information on when it was last signed in or anything like that, and he said that the system showed a factory reset within the last 7 days. So there's a high probability it was wiped and just completely sold. So I reached out to Aaron, Chad, and Nate, and of course, none of them had even seen or even knew that I had one. And that part is highly unlikely because the console is right in plain view in the living room. Well, jump cut to me calling the police, filing a report, and giving them Aaron, Chad, and Nate's name and their phone numbers. I then get a message yesterday from Aaron asking if I did call the police and file a report. And you know what? I told him yes, and that I won't be saying anything further. Well, he understood and really wanted to help me find it. I then get a message this morning from Chad saying, "How dare you accuse me of stealing your crap? Aaron and I are together and you can't stand it. I know you want him, but I won't let you. Stay away from me, Aaron, and Nate. If you so much as text even hello or good morning, I will call the police and say that you're bothering us. Stay away from me." And for the record, I have my own significant other and I definitely don't want him. I said nothing to him afterwards, and I screenshotted his message and also Aaron's message about the console. And at this point, Nate has also blocked me on everything and hasn't stopped by to pick up his belongings from my place. Now, there have only been 3 people that have been in my apartment in the last 2 months besides my significant other. other, but we are always together. So seriously, am I the jerk for the way this all transpired? Or is there something else that I could have done? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. Okay, I gotta be completely honest with you, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, it's clearly been Aaron, Chad, or Nate, like one of them clearly stole it, and like they easily could have solved this by just giving it back. They could have given the console back and that would have solved everything. But instead, they're trying to be like, I can't believe you did this. Don't ever call us again or we will call the police. And you know for a fact that's an empty kind of promise. They're not gonna do anything. They're just pissed off that you caught them in the act of stealing your crap, and now they're gonna have to account for it when the cops show up. Which, by the way, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. It literally had to have been one of those three people. They're the only people that had access to your house, and you have cameras around. So you clearly would have known if someone came into your house, or you probably would have noticed if someone, like, I don't know, had taken something out of your house through like a window. Clearly a cat burglar didn't like break in through a window, so it's obviously gotta be one of those three. So no, you're not the jerk. I honestly would have done the exact same thing because your friends are acting incredibly sketchy, and you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. An entitled jerk demands that we honor his old gift cards simply because he's a doctor, claiming that because he has the job that he does, he deserves special treatment over anybody else. Here's how it went down. So I'm a restaurant owner, and of course, I deal with loads of BS every single day. But this one time was just extra special, super crazy BS that honestly I can't get over. To start things out, we bought a restaurant in 2008. Lots of crap comes with that kind of purchase, and of course the equipment and inventory, but also existing customers, both good and bad. In many circumstances, the purchaser also inherits the issue of outstanding gift cards. Now, we did not receive any money or discount from the business purchase to cover the cash liability of the gift cards. So we decided it would be best to honor those old cards for a period of 1 year, starting the date that we took over all operations. We figured it would be seen as a good move that our guests would certainly appreciate. We put signs on the doors, posted on social media platforms even though it was limited back then. We even did a trade out with a couple local publications that our demographics relied on at the time. We had an upper crust clientele with lots of affluent people. Now, to help with separating the sales of the old cards, we made new ones with a new logo and everything, meaning that it was very obvious when someone was using the old cards. Now remember, we just comped all of those sales with no income whatsoever. Well, a year comes rolling around and we again announced that the old cards would be useless come said date. You know, whatever date that might be, and that anyone with one needed to use it up as soon as possible. Well, the final day comes and the signs are taken off the doors. The very next day, we had a table of 6 with one guy paying for the whole table. And wouldn't you know it, he wanted to use one of the old cards. I explained the situation to him and that it would be necessary to use another form of payment. But as you can probably guess, that didn't go over well. He then starts arguing with me, telling me that the right thing to do would be to accept his old gift card, which at this point was over a year old, most likely a couple of years old. We then go back and forth, around and around, and after a couple of minutes, he says to me, well, you know, I'm a doctor, so you should try to save face with me. Now, I had been very nice up to this point, but once he said this, I told him that his profession has nothing to do with it. But even though I was trying to talk, he kept cutting me off, trying to convince me that doctors were the best customers, even though, fun fact, they absolutely are not, and some of them are actually the worst, and that we should honor the card for him because of such. But I just shrugged my shoulders and I told him, well, if you leave now, I'll cut your bill in half just to get you out of my restaurant. And he was shocked at my chosen words, as anyone would be, I guess. But you know what? He accepted my offer and they left, never to be seen again, thankfully. And honestly, so many doctors have that God complex, that holier than thou attitude. I grew up in a medical family. My dad was a well-known doctor with a huge practice. His wife, who was my stepmom, was a nurse practitioner and worked in his office and did quite well. And I will say that there were times that dad acted in a similar fashion until I got into restaurant ownership. He slowly began to understand the amount of crap we deal with and that customers can really suck sometimes. And eventually he became a better customer. He had more patience with the staff, etc., and he was tipping way more than before. He definitely changed his tune after spending 5 years in prison, which is an entirely different story in and of itself. But he came out more humble and things like that. So this entitled jerk saying that he should get special treatment because he's a doctor honestly was not going to faze me for a single second. Wow, imagine being so entitled that you're like, I'm a doctor, you need to give me an exception. Like, seriously, dude, who cares? Because the original poster is right. Your profession has literally nothing to do with anything going on in here. And the fact that he wants to be like, I deserve the best, you should honor these gift cards because I'm a doctor, you need to save face with me. It's like, my guy, you have no power over this restaurant in the slightest. Just because you're coming here and you've probably been going here for a while doesn't mean I owe you anything, bro. Like, what's going on right now? So good for the original poster for standing their ground, because this kind of entitled behavior is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for saying that I don't want my sister at my wedding? All because I'm convinced that she will try to ruin everything. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I'm a 28-year-old male, and I'm getting married to my amazingly beautiful fiance, who I will call Rosie, in a month. We met 4 years ago through my sister, who I will call Sophia, and from what I know, they were good friends before me and Rosie started dating. I knew Sophia would always be indifferent to my past partners, but I never would have thought that she would do that to somebody she was friends with way before. But clearly, I thought wrong. When Sophia realized we were getting serious, she would start making sly remarks and rude comments to Rosie. It always irritated me, but Rosie always told me it was fine and would always beg me to not say anything, so I never really did. But recently, since our engagement, Sophia has been a real jerk. In fact, Rosie had her as a bridesmaid, even though I don't see the point. Anyways, we had a gathering with a whole wedding party, and the girls were supposed to wear blush pink and the guys sage green, since they were our wedding colors. Meanwhile, I wore black and Rosie wore white. And honestly, I should have known that Sophia was gonna do something stupid, since she was 20 minutes late, but that's another problem in and of itself. Sophia showed up and she was wearing a white dress to the gathering. Like literally a white dress. And that honestly was my last straw. I told Sophia to either go home and change, or she can be out of the wedding. And I guess she thought I was joking because she laughed, but I was not. When she finally realized, she got defensive and told me it's just a color, which I replied that it wasn't, while also saying, look, it's not my fault you have some weird obsession with every girl I date. You're not gonna ruin my relationship with Rosie. I even told her that I didn't want her there at all, especially if she's gonna pull a stunt like this, which apparently was too far since my mom started yelling at me and the gathering ended early. Now, Rosie thanked me for standing up for her, but she wants me to apologize since Sophia is my sister. But honestly, I'm not gonna do it. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I think it's important to note that yeah, your sister is out of her mind, and she is only acting this way to try and get under your skin and ruin your relationship. Like that's all that's going on, and honestly, it's not fair. She wore a white dress on purpose just to piss you guys off, or at the very least, test the water to see if she can get away with it. And that's crazy in my opinion. Like seriously, there's no reason to act that way. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you don't want your sister at your wedding. She's clearly gonna try and like ruin it in some kind of way, and honestly, I think getting ahead of this would be a really good idea. An entitled jerk I go to school with has been constantly bothering me and making me uncomfortable in ways that are completely inappropriate. So I decided to get some revenge by spoiling the ending of Marvel's Endgame, completely upending and ruining his experience with that movie since at the time he had not seen it yet, resulting in this guy finally leaving me alone. Here's how it went down. So this was back in 2019 when the hype for Marvel's Endgame was in full swing. I was in high school, maybe being 13 or 14 years old at the time, and for some reason this kid was obsessed with me. Like from the very start, he decided to constantly annoy me. He had written a song about me cheating on him even though we never dated, and had followed me around the corridors telling me that my butt looked nice. We lived in the same area of town, and he once followed me home, saying some pretty disgusting stuff to me, honestly, to put it nicely. Now, I tried telling the school, but they said he probably had a crush on me and to just ignore him. This kid loved Marvel, especially Iron Man. Like, he was absolutely obsessed. He had the themed backpack, a pencil case, everything. And when he wasn't pestering me nonstop, he was talking about Iron Man. Well, he got sick the same week Endgame was released and was off school for a few days. A few of my friends had seen it that weekend, and since I wasn't interested, they spoiled it for me and told me that Iron Man died at the end. Well, the kid came in next week after being ill and started bothering me once again. I knew that he had not seen Endgame yet, and to be honest, I just wanted him to shut up, but I was a really quiet kid who never retaliated. So I told him Iron Man died in Endgame. And yes, I know it's a bad thing to spoil things on the premise that you're not interested in that thing, but he was fully stunned. Like, the look on his face was absolutely brilliant, and based on the way he was treating me, he honestly really deserved it. Okay, first of all, the fact that the school is not doing anything about this is crazy to me. Like, why on earth are they letting that slide? Like, seriously, that's some crazy weird behavior, and that is absolutely not okay. But also, I think this is some really funny revenge because this guy deserves it. He's literally like bothering the original poster in a way that is absolutely uncalled for, saying these really gross remarks and saying, oh, you got a nice butt and all this weird stuff. Like, seriously, this is not okay. So the fact that you ruined probably his favorite franchise all in one fell swoop, like, that's funny to me and honestly so deserved. So good for you for scaring this guy away, because apparently, according to the original poster, this was super effective, because this guy absolutely deserved it. My entitled friends from high school thought that they could dine and dash from the restaurant I was a server at. So I decided to get some revenge by literally telling on them to their moms, getting them in trouble in a way that they will never be able to avoid. This is how I did it. When I was working as a server, some people I knew vaguely decided to dine and dash at the restaurant I worked at. These were high school friends of a friend, and it wasn't my table, people, but I was close with the server. And some restaurants make servers pay for walkouts for not paying enough attention to their tables. When anybody I vaguely know walks into an establishment that I work at, I always clock it and I try to avoid them. The town we live in is not a small town in Michigan, but I've gone to like 3 different school districts, so the chances of me running into someone that I know is very high, with bonus points being added if I'm friends on Facebook with them. But since they decided to dine and dash, I quickly went to Facebook and I looked them up. Then I messaged them and I said, hey, I know you dine and dashed, you need to come back and pay for your meal. But after they left me on red, I decided to get some revenge. I found their moms and I messaged them. Their moms thanked me for letting them know, and I don't really remember if the bill ended up getting taken care of because it was a long time ago, but I do remember giving my server friend the validation of knowing I tattled to their moms. Okay, dude, this is so messed up on so many fronts. First of all, the fact that any restaurant would make servers pay for walkouts, like that is crazy and probably illegal somewhere in the world. I'm not sure about the specifics of it, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that is incredibly unethical. But secondly, who in their right mind would dine and dash in today's day and age? There are cameras everywhere, dude. Like, what are you doing? That is some serious stupid behavior that is just gonna land you in a lot of trouble. Not to mention the fact that you live in a small town. Like, chances are somebody's gonna know you from somewhere, and it's just gonna hurt your reputation and everybody's gonna catch you in the act. So truly, to the original poster, I say good for you. People like this deserve to get caught because I literally can't stand people who steal, and the fact that they thought they would seriously get away with that, in my opinion, is some crazy behavior. Today, I messed up by winning a government surplus auction where I mistakenly got a 20-foot trailer that I thought was just a darkroom for my photography hobby, resulting in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it went down. Okay, first of all, please cut me some slack because this happened when I was 13 years old. I was a young wannabe photographer and I had been researching the cost of setting up my own darkroom. Now, this is a mostly lost art. You need an enlarger, film tanks, chemicals, paper, and dozens of other pieces of equipment. Plus, you needed a light-proof room with decent ventilation. My parents were mostly supportive, if not mostly disinterested. I was allowed to come and go as I please, and they were willing to let me use an unused bathroom at our house to set up my own darkroom. I just never had enough money to do it, so I used to have to use a rented darkroom at a local studio that charged by the hour. Now, my 15-year-old brother was a very early computer nerd and a phone freak. He had different projects going on all the time, and some of them were pretty sketchy. In fact, he used to buy stuff from the US government. They mailed him books for auctions and surplus disposal, etc. He had set up a bidding account and had bought crazy used electronics and decommissioned communications devices. It was all through sealed bid offers and conducted solely through snail mail. You would see a listing that you wanted, you would fill out a bidding form, and then send it through the mail. If you were the high bid, you would receive a notice sometimes 4 to 6 weeks later with instructions on payment. Well, he showed me a brief listing that caught his eye. It's been a while, but it said something like this: portable field darkroom, enlarger, trays, storage, self-contained with supplies and tools. The listing had dozens of abbreviations and other details that I didn't understand, and it was located 90 miles away in the San Diego area. Shipping was to be coordinated by the winning bidder. Now, when I saw this, I was very excited. My brother had gotten electronics and tools for pennies on the dollar. He agreed to send a bid for me, and after much deliberation on how much to bid, we came upon the magnificent sum of $80. There was little to no chance that we would even win, but honestly, who knows? So we just sent off the bid. When the end date came and went, I breathlessly checked the mail daily to see if I won. Finally, I received a very official-looking envelope with basically a notification and an invoice. And believe it or not, I actually won. We paid through a postal money order and received instructions on where to collect my triumphant spoils. And honestly, this is where things go very sideways. Now, we had no way of getting the stuff picked up. It was miles away. I didn't even have a bicycle at the time. Well, my brother worked out a deal with a super shady guy named Lance, who had a mini truck, all for a tank of gas and some stolen booze. And with that, we were mobile. So we drove down to the warehouse with my paperwork in hand. But it turns out we were going to a Marine base. So there we were. My brother, a slightly chubby, freckled redhead, me, the scrawny, prepubescent doofus, and Lance, someone who looks like they're straight out of the movie Dazed and Confused. As we got closer to the gate, Lance starts freaking out. He's got some special substances on him, if you know what I mean, and he's got no ID. After we explained who we were and why we were there, the gate guard had us driving to the holding area. They said to us, do not exit the vehicle and do not drive past the second fence. After about 25 minutes, a very stern-looking guy came out and walked around the truck. Gentlemen, I understand you're here to retrieve a parcel. We responded by saying, yes, sir, and he responded back by asking if this was the vehicle that we intend to remove our property. He then asked for who it was that ordered this, and it's there that I got his attention by saying, it's me, I'm the one who did it. He then said to follow him and took us to a dusty field and storage yard where we passed building after building of neglected green junk. stunk. Everything was covered in tarps and tied with rope. Well, he finally stopped and said, "Do you see the problem here?" And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? He then says to me, "This is your dark room." We were in front of a dilapidated 20-foot trailer from no later than 1960. It was filthy and sitting on very low tires. He opened the doors and said, "Go ahead, watch out for mice and spiders." Now, the inside was just as crappy and rotted as the exterior. Boxes of old photography supplies, unrecognizable canisters, and an ancient vintage enlarger that was probably state-of-the-art several years ago. Now, I was crestfallen, feeling completely dumb. The guy then basically said that he doesn't think our rig is going to tow this thing out of there. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, tow this thing? I wanted to get out of here and just never look back. I then asked him the burning question of, well, what happens if we don't pick it up? But this guy basically implied that we're not going to be going anywhere with it unless we've got a diesel rig hiding somewhere. So we left. As much as I wanted to split the blame with my brother, as he was older, this was completely on me. I told him it was a great deal and that I knew everything on the listing. And even though my money was gone, the worst was yet to come. Sometime in the next few weeks, we started getting official-looking abandoned property letters, as well as notice of forfeiture, and then it finally happened. I came home from school one day, and there in front of my house was the green beast. My horror was compounded by the fact that it was blocking the driveway. I mean, there was no hiding this. I went inside the house, and I remember closing the drapes as if my parents wouldn't notice it when they came home, and I started frantically calling the numbers I had for the warehouse. It was about 3 to 4 tries in when I finally got someone on the line who could help me. They said to me, and they basically explained that they were going in that direction, and they just dropped off the load on the way. And I said to them, "Are you crazy? I'm a 13-year-old kid." And the guy on the other end said, "Well, according to the Department of Disposal, you're the owner of the surplus trailer." And then he hung up on me. Now, about this time, a small group of nosy neighbors and kids, mostly my friends, had gathered around to see the green behemoth. And this was perfect timing as my dad was rounding the corner in his car. My parents were not exactly engaged helicopter parents. My siblings and I pretty much did whatever we wanted with little to no supervision, and they only got involved when antics disrupted their lives. You know, with what's happening right now. Well, my dad wasn't a monster. He basically just said, just deal with it. And over the next few days, I cleaned it out and was able to move it so it wasn't blocking the driveway. After a few days, we decided to run an ad for it, and I eventually sold it to a hippie who showed up in a vintage postal truck and gave me $50 for the entire thing. I eventually built my own darkroom, and my family still teases me about the beast to this day, because this is an incident that still haunts me. Okay, this is a crazy situation because honestly, this is not your fault. These people did not properly advertise this, and they definitely didn't tell you exactly the dimensions of what you would be buying. Like, I'm sure you thought this was some small thing that you could set up in your house, not a 20-foot trailer you're gonna have to gut and clean out. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So good for you for getting it sold off and getting it off your property, because I'm sure that must have been a nightmare to deal with. Am I the jerk for not inviting my friend to our girls' night after she literally stole the spotlight last time she showed up? Here's how it all went down. I'm a 24-year-old female and I live in a small town where everyone knows everyone, and gossip spreads faster than free Wi-Fi. Me and my 2 best friends have a tradition once a month where we do a proper girls' night, just us with some good food and the kind of drama you only share when you really trust someone. Well, this is where Tina enters the story. She moved back to town a few months ago and has been trying to slide back into our friend group, and I was cool with it. I mean, the more the merrier, right? Well, no, I was completely wrong. Last month, we invited her to the girls' night for the first time, and within 10 minutes, she was telling everyone about her breakup, her new guy, and how apparently every guy in town has a crush on her. She interrupted every story we told and somehow made it about herself. Then, and I kid you not, she went on Instagram Live from my living room during the night, and it turned into a weird question and answer about her life, and she barely acknowledged the rest of us. Well, this month, I decided to keep girls' night between just me and my 2 close friends, meaning that I was not going to invite Tina. And now she's telling people in town that I excluded her out of jealousy and I don't want her to be happy. Half the girls in town are now direct messaging me, saying things like, "Oh, that's so mean. You should have included her." While the other half are saying, "Good, she's exhausting." So am I the jerk for protecting the vibe and not inviting her this time? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, it sounds like Tina is super obnoxious and one of those people who is always trying to like get the attention from everyone. And that just really sucks. It's really annoying, and after a while, it can really just drive you crazy. So if you want to have a girls' night with just you and your 2 friends, then you have every right to. Like, this is not something she should be expected to join up in, especially if she's gonna be annoying. And to anybody who's like, "Oh yeah, you should have invited her," if they really feel that way, then why not include Tina in their stuff? Because I guarantee you that Tina will pull the exact same crap, because from the sounds of it, this is just the kind of person that Tina is. Am I overreacting about my neighbors coming into my backyard, stealing my blueberries without my permission? Because right now, I feel like I'm going crazy and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. on. Okay, almost a year ago, my husband and I made the move out of the city and bought a beautiful home in a beautiful suburb that is somewhat historic. Our home is late 1800s and has been renovated, but with a lot of the historic aspects kept, like a beautiful old barn. With this home, the prior owners had fruit trees and a blueberry patch, with about 12 bushes altogether. The wife of the couple who sold us left me a guide to caring for the fruit trees and the bushes, and apparently there are multiple types of blueberries, and they were one of her big passions. I was super excited to have land for my dogs, get to garden, and take care of the existing fruit plants. We moved in last fall, and this is our first year having to care for everything. Last fall, we put us a fence around our property so that the dogs can go out in the yard whenever they want. Well, the other day, my dog started barking like crazy, and mind you, they are not very vocal usually. I went out to see what was going on, and a woman with 2 kids was yelling at them in my yard. She had a bucket in her hands and her arms were flailing. I ran over to see what she was doing in our yard and what the issue was. She said my dogs were bothering her and she had come to pick blueberries with her kids. And I was like, sorry lady, this is private property and my dogs are just protecting their home. She then told me that she had permission from the owner and for the last few years they came down to pick blueberries and her kids always look forward to it. I then explained that we bought the house about a year ago and we aren't comfortable with that and that she needed to leave. She then went off on a rant about how the previous owner had always allowed it, and she even said it was rude of me to put a fence up, and I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on right now? Well, I ended up telling her to leave or I would call the police. She was fuming and said something about us ruining the neighborhood, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, cool, whatever. I then messaged my husband because he was at the office, and he told me straight up that we should get a lock for the gate. I'm worried if this lady comes in again, or another neighbor who had prior access to her property does, our dogs might get out or they might get protective. We have 2 larger rescue dogs who are sweet, but they're dogs, so stuff can happen. Also, this lady never came to introduce herself when we moved in, yet she expects us to let her pillage our fruit. I feel like I maybe should report this in the chance that something else pops up, but I just don't know. So overall, am I overreacting here? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, your neighbor's crazy, dude. Who in their right mind would like go on someone else's property like that and be like, oh yeah, I had permission from the other owner. And it's like, dude, you clearly know the other owner moved out, right? Like this is clearly not the person who used to live here, so you being like, well, the other people let me do it. Like that crap just doesn't fly in my opinion, and it doesn't make any sense. So no, you didn't overreact. This lady's insane for doing this. And I think setting up a gate or some kind of cameras around your property would probably be a really good idea, especially considering the fact that this lady did it once, and there is no saying that she wouldn't try and do this one more time. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.